All right, everyone. We are here in Missoula, Montana. We're going to do a little group discussion here on everything that's going on in the union. I got president here of Branch 701 in Missoula, Montana, and the former president, Branch 701. So I'll let them introduce themselves. Just use the microphone.
Sean McGlynn, current president of Branch 701.
I am Russ DeVore, former president of Branch 701 and current vice president of the state of Montana.
Awesome. So if you hear any background noise, they got a heated ping pong tournament going on in the other room, and it's pretty intense over there. So,
Yeah.
So we were just kind of talking before we started the video about a lot of other things, and so we can kind of recap some of it. But I'm sure you guys got other things you want to talk about, and I guess I could ask some questions, or you guys could ask questions, whatever. I'm curious to know what you think the participation level will be in the elections this year. Because traditionally the participation is low, and so the question people have is, we saw a lot more participation with the vote on the tentative agreement. Do you guys think that the vote will be a little bit higher like that, or it'll be low like it traditionally is?
I'm a little bit torn on that because you had a lot more participation for the tentative agreement vote, and then it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And so I think that will have some effect repressing the vote. But with all the podcasts that are out there now, I think that's what often led to the increase in participation. And I think there's so much anger against Renfro to try and make sure that he doesn't win that could mitigate that somewhat. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was over 100,000, maybe even close to half of our membership. But I would be surprised if it was back down into the 40 or 50,000 range.
And one of the strongest things I say about being a member is our ability to vote. That's
Right.
one of our key abilities to our membership. And during the Vote No campaign, we got out there and really pushed. We made people aware that this was important. And I think that's going to be, again, a key push for a lot of branches, is that no matter how you want to vote, your voice needs to be heard. Your vote needs to be heard.
Yeah, I always say that people join the union voluntarily. It's an open shop. And so it always surprises me to see the level of participation in something like an election, because like you say, what's the point of being a member of something if you don't do the most basic thing, which is to participate in the election? But I think that what happens is the lack of quality candidates, or the lack of a contested election where you feel like your voice really matters. And I think we kind of solved that this time, because I think you're going to have quality candidates and you're going to have a contested election. And so I think that will help to get participation. But the other thing is always the logistics of voting, which, to people that are like real union people like us, we're gonna figure that out, and it's a real low level, right? Find out where your mail goes and go get your ballot, fill it out, and return it right away, because you got a short window there. But I found for a lot of our members that have a peripheral kind of involvement with the union, sometimes even the lowest hurdles, which in this election, I think one of the hurdles is going to be the 21-day time frame, because and that's in the Constitution. And so how long does it take if they mail the ballots from DC? How long does it take for them to get to Montana? What do we think?
We're getting
7 days.
We're getting 7 days just from Butte.
Exactly.
Which is just down the road.
Exactly. And so, for example, if it took 10 days, which hopefully it doesn't take that long, you literally have to turn that thing around the same day, because it has to be back in the P.O. box in order for them to count it. So now you're talking about 10 days here, 10 days back, because it's a 21-day time frame, total. And I don't know if anyone submitted a constitutional amendment, because it's in the Constitution, that time frame. But all the amendments have to be in by June the 3rd. Today is May 31st, and whatever's in at this point is probably in.
Yeah.
But I was hoping somebody would put a resolution, an amendment to the Constitution that would raise that to 28 days or 30 days or something. Because
I believe there is.
to me,
one
that's going to
going
be a
forward.
hurdle. You saw one?
I believe I did see one
Okay.
going forward.
I hope they submit it because they got to get it. You can have an amendment, but you got to pass it at the branch. You got to get 2/3 of the members voting, and so anyway, hopefully somebody passed that. I don't know, but if it's only 21 days, it's only 21 days. It's fair for everyone as far as the results of the election. But if we want participation, and that's the other thing is one thing we're doing with our campaign, the Care for Press campaign, is we just want people to participate.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's foolish to kind of when you get into the whole "do you support me or not" kind of thing.
Right.
There's always a couple of things that go through my mind when people ask that question. One, how you would vote today is not necessarily how you would vote at the time, right? Because the election, and that's the other thing, the Constitution, it doesn't say clearly what the time frame for the election was. And I think that's because we used to vote at the convention, and in the 70s they changed that so the voting takes place, mail ballot election,
Right.
one man, one vote kind of thing. They passed that in the 70s. But all it says is that on the fourth day of the convention, you'll form the balloting committee. The balloting committee will, send out the ballots and do all of that. And then there's that 21-day time frame to vote and have your ballot at the P.O. box. And then within 45 days, you have the installation of the new officers. And so traditionally, the time frame for the election is like the middle of September to the middle of October. And then the 45-day period would take you into like the first week of December.
Mhm.
And that's normally when the installation of the new officers is. But it doesn't say that,
Yeah.
So when exactly the election will be, we don't know. But whenever it is, what we're trying to do as a campaign is get everyone ready to vote, no matter who you're voting for.
Right.
And I think 90% of the membership wants to vote Renfro out. And like you said, what he did to us last time, and I don't know if you guys saw what we talked about earlier when I was talking with Nick Vafiatas, who's your business agent out here in Region 2. I listed the 3 things that are absolute deal breakers for me on the current president. And one of them was that he took the results of the tentative agreement and just enacted the contract anyway, even though we had voted against it. That was a deal breaker. Not filing a national grievance like we told him to do, not following the will of the supreme body of the membership. He didn't do that. And then the way he runs the executive council and the leadership of the union, which Nick and I are more familiar with than you guys would be. But
Right.
those are deal breakers. And I don't know if you guys have any other things that are deal breakers or things you've heard from carriers, but the idea would be to get all the membership, activated around those concepts. Like, let's get this guy out. Because I've been to a lot of post offices where people will tell me in colorful words, we got to get this up out of there.
Oh, yeah.
One of the biggest things that I continuously hear is the no contract. People
The no vote.
the no vote. 70% of the people voted no on it.
It's crazy.
That was the largest no vote in the history of this union.
Yeah, and what was crazy, and people will say, oh, the terms weren't that bad. They were similar to the previous contract that we voted on in the early part of 2021, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is true. It was similar in some of the terms. The difference was, I think, not lost on most of us, that we had worked through the pandemic and, the rate of inflation and just quite frankly, the leverage that we all assumed we had. Hell, we were told that we passed the Postal Reform Act of 2022, right? We were told that even though we didn't get any hazard pay from the pandemic through Congress, that it would come out in our contract, that we were deemed essential. And then just, many years of working as under the Table 2 structure and the non-career thing. And now UPS drivers got that great contract in 2023 and other unions and stuff. And so we're all thinking that, and so
We're due.
we got, what I was going to say was, there was a 96% approval of the previous contract. That's how unprecedented, to your point about how unprecedented that vote was, to go from 96% approval to 71% disapproval, that tells you a lot about the mood of the membership. And so hopefully the members don't get lost in, well, the president did it anyway, so we have no say. Well, now we have to get a new president.
Yeah, the thing that bothered me so much about Renfro is not only did he go against the will of the vote, which was staggering. I mean, if any elected official won by that kind of margin, they would feel completely secure in doing whatever was that platform was, because it was an overwhelming mandate to do
It was
whatever
2-1.
that was.
At least 2-1.
I mean, that's crazy. But for me, the bigger thing is that when I look at that contract and I just say, I didn't do a lot of research on the particulars of it, but I did learn about the Postal Reform Act. Postal Reform Act says we get paid in commensurate with the private sector. Well, how can you not make the argument that we deserve to be paid close to FedEx and UPS? How can you not say that according to there's a 20-year-old arbitration that says we get paid a level higher than clerks. The clerks are making more than I am.
Yeah.
I'm a Step E carrier. The clerks get a full COLA. I don't. How is that possible? How can you not even fight the two basic things in arbitration and say this controls and says we should be making, top step, if you're going to make it close to FedEx and UPS, top step needs to be at least 47.
Yeah.
At least.
One of the crazy. Go ahead.
The clerks if every other craft has a full COLA, why don't we? That makes a huge difference. Those are the things that bother me.
I was going to say one of the craziest things that happened. So, first of all, there was a resolution at the last convention brought forth by the Massachusetts State Association, and it said that, because I don't know if you guys probably remember this, during that whole time frame, 2023 and 2024, we couldn't get any information out of the president. Like, he was the only one in the negotiations. Right. We don't even know if he was actually meeting with them, or we didn't have no meeting schedule or any information about what we were meeting about, if we're making any progress, nothing, right? And the president kept telling us, well, I can't disclose this information because it would hurt the negotiating process. And so the Massachusetts State Association, they passed a resolution that said, and this passed at the convention in Boston, said after this is all over and done with, you're going to give us a blow-by-blow of everything that happened. Well, we never got the blow-by-blow, even though when you pass a resolution at the convention, it's supposed to mean something. That's the supreme body of the union. That's crazy to me that it doesn't mean anything. But to this president, it doesn't mean anything, I should say. It shouldn't. It would mean something to me, and it would mean something for every member of the union, especially you're paying a lot of money now to go to these damn conventions. That we're not doing them in places that are cheap. We're doing them in expensive places. You guys, even if you're not a delegate to the convention, your branch, your dues money is going towards sending all these people to the convention. And so the resolutions and things that come out of that convention gotta mean something. But what the president said, we were having a kind of a discussion in the executive council about the whole, the way it played out. And the president tried to say that it was an arbitration hearing. And I said, wait a second, there was no witnesses, there was no presentations, there's no cross-examination, how do you call this a hearing? And he said, well, it was the same arbitrator that we had a hearing in 2020, and that arbitrator got all of the testimony in 2020. And I'm thinking, the same look you just had? So are you telling me that nothing changed between 2020 and 2025?
A lot's changed.
And so much has changed. The pandemic, the rate of inflation, the uniform prices, the grievance procedure has gotten progressively worse through that time frame. There's so many, and the comparison thing that you mentioned, right? UPS wages went up. That in and of itself required a hearing. Because now when you're applying the comparability standard, it's a different standard. And the other thing you mentioned about the clerk's pay went up during that period as well. And the reason why is because in times of high inflation, when you apply that cost of living allowance at all steps, it makes a bigger difference. And in times of higher inflation, that's going to make a bigger difference. Right now, it sits at $2.39 more that the clerks start off with, the career clerks start off with, than a career letter carrier. And you can say, well, they've always earned a little bit more than us at the beginning, but we make more at the end. Well, the difference is now that amount at the beginning is more. It's becoming more and more. And the length of your career as a letter carrier has shortened. And so I would say that probably, and I'm pretty sure this is true, the majority of people that start as a letter carrier throughout their whole career, the majority, not the ones that make it to the top, but the majority always make less than a clerk because they only work a few years, right? Yeah. If you work a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, your whole career, clerks made more than you, right?
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
Think about this. The COLAs are something I've been doing a lot of research on.
Okay. Because you got a background in math.
Yeah.
Tell me what your background is.
I have a 4-year degree in math education.
Okay.
So I'm certified to be a math teacher.
Awesome.
So here's the deal. I went back and I found pay charts all the way back to the DOS Award.
Okay.
I can tell you that from the DOS Award in 2013 to today, we've had 1 year of which our general wage increase was more than 2%. Only once.
Right.
When the DOS Award was implemented, Step A on Table 1 was slightly higher than Step G on Table 2.
Okay.
In 2019, it surpassed Step H. Now it's beyond Step I.
Wow.
At the current
That's because
rate,
of the full COLA is applied in Table 1.
COLAs.
Right.
That's all COLAs.
Right.
At the current rate, I'm going to have to work here for 524 weeks to get to a pay step that will be above Step A on Table 1. Think about that.
Yeah.
That's all COLAs.
And if you really wanted to go even further, look at, I think it's Step D in the Table 1 pay chart, where there's like this big increase.
It's
because
B.
So whatever that is, once you get to that point, you're at like 92% to the top, right? So you're basically making top pay at that point. And in the current Table 2 pay chart, you have to go like all the way through the chart before you get to that same point that you're at. Like when I started in 1994, when you started, we got to that point relatively quickly. And a lot of people don't realize this, and it frustrates me when I hear some of the old timers talk, and even some of the retirees. They don't understand the drastic difference between Table 1 and Table 2 pay. It takes forever to get to the top, but also what you were talking about earlier, you're paying 4.4% into your annuity versus 0.8%, and then just the cost of stuff has gone up so much. And if you don't have a full COLA, which the COLA is only 55% of the rate of inflation, the way it's calculated. So you get a COLA and you get a general wage increase and you put them together. But when the cost of living goes up, you put them together, it doesn't keep up. Right. At the top, at the bottom, it's less. It's even worse. And the pay discrepancy is so huge now. And then you add in the fact that you're starting as a non-career employee, which you and I didn't have to go through, which is huge. You add in the fact that we're, the office time is so short now. You're on the street so much, and there's still a lot of staffing issues in a lot of post offices where carriers are just on their feet for 10 and 12 hours every single day. The safety issues are a lot more. They micromanage us a lot more. There's a lot more technology than when we started. They kind of left us alone a little bit, and that's just not the case. And so you put all that together, and this is a job that has just gone south.
Well, and one of the arguments was that people are going to spend more time at the top pay step, and that's why the top pay step doesn't work that way anymore.
Right.
People are spending more time in the middle.
Exactly. They're never getting to the top because they quit.
Yeah, they never get, because the people quit. Because the job's not there anymore. Like you said, we're spending more time on the street. We're spending more time out there doing the job. The job's harder, and we're not getting any acknowledgement for that.
Right.
I
think that's a word, like you say, acknowledgement. I mean, I think that was, people say, well, why did people vote down the last contract? Man, because the acknowledgement wasn't there of what we went through. We didn't miss a single day of work. You guys remember the pandemic?
Oh, God,
I mean, I was in a lot of post offices. Hell, I went to go deliver mail during the pandemic. First of all, just getting ready for work was a big project. You know, you had to protect, you had to wear the mask, the this, the that. You know, just going through the details of getting to work, but also the unknown of it. Like, you remember, we thought that the virus could be like to the touch, like it could spread on parcels, right? We're like wearing gloves and so, like, you know, we just didn't know. And you got to prepare yourself mentally and physically for the task at hand. And then there was all these logistic things, like, you know, what am I going to do with my kids, and, you know, the normal routines of life. How am I going to feed my family? And, you know, everything was disrupted, and you had to figure all that out, and you had to be safe, and you had to get your ass to work. And we never got nothing out of that.
Yeah.
No, nothing extra. Of course, we're paid our salary, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and you consider when you're talking about the comparability.
Move the mic closer, maybe.
How does it compare to a UPS driver? A UPS driver takes a package from point A and they deliver it to the address on the package.
Yep.
What do I do when I deliver a package? I deliver it to the address on the package, but I have to check the name.
Yep.
And go, does that person still live here? No, I'm expected to forward that and get it to that person, no matter where they happen to live in the United States. I have to do all the forwards. I have to carry all the mail. I have to sort all the packages. UPS
you have
drivers,
different classes of mail.
Yeah, you have.
You know, you have
all
to
these
handle
different
things differently. Some
deal
things
with.
require signatures.
The
and
UPS
there's, you know,
driver, while they do a lot of work and they carry a lot of stuff, their truck is usually loaded for them in the first half of the day, and then they come back and they have to load their truck the second time. But all they're doing is running packages. And let me tell you what, I was a CCA for 110 weeks, and running packages out of a 2-ton, I considered to be a wonderful break.
That's the best job, I know.
That was so much easier than everything else I had to do.
Right.
You know, was just delivering packages out of the 2-ton truck and doing that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a huge difference. So we have to do.
I've been making this argument that a letter carrier job, it compares very favorably. So if you get into like interest arbitration and you're trying to apply the Postal Reorganization Act of 1970, the comparability standard that's in the law, when you go to apply it, I think if you look at UPS drivers, you would have to say we shouldn't make any less than them. Like, you can make the argument that we should make more than them, but at the very least, you can win, I think, an argument in front of a neutral arbitrator that says we shouldn't make any less than them. Right? Because of all the things that you just mentioned, the level of responsibility, the safety.
They do a quarter of what we do.
Yeah, I don't know about a quarter, but but like you say, we do what they do and a little bit more, right? Yeah. We do more than what they do. And I think everyone can look at that objectively and say that's an objective reality. And so people ask me, you know, they're trying to be funny or whatever, and they say, well, you want all these things for the members of the union, but how are you going to get there? Well, shit, the law the law says what it says. It allows for it. And the Postal Service has tried on a couple of different occasions throughout like this arbitral history to make the argument, well, we're broke and, you know, therefore we can't pay what you're asking. And it's been shot down in writing by arbitrators that have said the statute says what the statute says, and we're going to apply the statute. And the other thing I always say is that when we're doing a comparison, we should be doing a comparison between a city letter carrier and a UPS driver for pay purposes. And the difference is the Teamsters negotiate what I call like a all-craft contract. So you have people that load the trucks, you have people that sort the parcels. They're all represented by the Teamsters. And so the pay chart for the Teamsters, it starts off low, it's part-time, and then when you become a driver, you get a big increase, and the whole driver pay, it only takes them 4 years to get to the top. They're going to be at $49 an hour next year. They get 100% of their health insurance paid. And so to me, if you have a comparability standard, let's compare apples to apples. Let's not compare the whole Teamster contract. Let's just compare the rates that they've negotiated for their delivery drivers, which are the most comparable job to the city letter carrier. Yes. And let's compare that. And there's where, so President Renfro last time when we had the tentative agreement, when he was going around trying to sell it, his argument was that at the top of the pay chart, which right now for us is like $41, and the top of the pay chart for them was always, right now it's $47. He said we're always been about 80% of what they're at, right? Well, it's a little disingenuous. For one, if you calculate in the health insurance costs, which is 100% for them, for us now we're paying 28% of the cost, but also the rate, the amount of health insurance, the amount total cost has gone up, right? So we're paying more now than we ever did. So that eats into that 80%. But the reality is, you don't just compare the top, compare the bottom. The bottom for us is way lower than what the bottom is for the UPS driver. Don't compare what they do is they'll compare the CCA rate of pay to the starting pay for a part-time UPS worker who loads the trucks. And the part-time worker who loads the trucks makes like similar pay to the CCAs. But that's not the comparison, right?
And they're doing completely different jobs.
If the clerk union was negotiating, right? If the APW was negotiating, then that would be relevant. Yeah. We only represent the city letter carriers. Yeah. So when we go in there, we negotiate a contract and we take our case in front of an arbitration panel, I think we have a very strong case to make, and we should focus only on the UPS drivers that do a similar job to us, and by all accounts, do a less valuable, less dangerous, less physically demanding job than the city letter carrier. Why is it, or how can you justify that we make less than them?
Yeah, and that insurance piece is a huge piece. I'm single.
Yeah.
I just have me. I'm on the NALC, like high payout, the best NALC plan.
Right, the high option or whatever.
Yeah, I'm paying like $225 a month. So
a month.
Yeah.
Right.
Just doing that insurance piece, that's $1.50 an hour, roughly. And that's assuming, that's not even on a family plan. You talk a family plan, those people are paying what? $350, $500, $600 a month for that plan. Now you're talking $4 an hour for their part, just their part of that insurance.
Right.
That's a huge, huge deal.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we fix the insurance, if we can do it through our the collective bargaining, or if we have to change the law, or we have to do something along those lines. But it's a big deal and it needs to be addressed. And I don't see Renfro remotely interested in doing that.
Everything I've seen indicates to me that you can do it through collective bargaining. I did see some stuff out there that, so they passed the Postal Reform Act in 2022, and obviously there was a change. We used to be under the Federal Employees Health Benefit Plan. Now where it's a Postal Service only portion of the Federal Employees Health Benefit Plan. And the question that I saw someone bring up, I think it was just one person, but I don't know if it's true or not, but I never saw no evidence that the law in 2022 restricted the amount that the government or the agency could pay. So we wouldn't be able to negotiate a higher rate for them and a lower rate for us. But I don't think that's true. I never saw nothing in the law itself that said that, right? So presumably we could negotiate. And I know for a fact that APWU, for example, has negotiated where if you pick their consumer-driven plan, which obviously most members might not, or not all members would want the consumer-driven plan, but you might want it for the cost because the employer pays 95% of that cost. You only pay 5%. You say, well, my coverage is less. Yeah, well, your deductible is higher, but your out-of-pocket costs are so much less. Would there be value in that to some of our newer members, right? And the post office is able to save money because the overall cost of the insurance is less, and so they're paying less, and you're paying less, and so it's one of those kind of win-win type things. Maybe there's something we could do with the high option insurance, where right now the cost of the NELC insurance is significantly less than Blue Cross Blue Shield, for example.
Right.
So if you got into the NELC health plan, could you get a savings, right? Like, let's split that cost because the post office is paying 72% of that higher cost, right?
Yeah.
So we know that it's $100 a pay period more just for the 28%. That means that the post office is paying $300 a pay period per employee. So could we negotiate with them and say, okay, if someone picks the NELC health benefit plan, can they pay less percentage-wise to kind of, you're going to save money and they're going to save money, kind of to incentivize someone getting in the NELC health benefit plan? It would seem like there's ways to negotiate that stuff. Yeah. I don't, to me.
One of the other directions I kind of want to go in the same direction as the pay stuff is the uniform allowance, Mike.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Which I have not seen your plan on the uniform allowance, so I'm just kind of curious about what your plan is for uniforms if you became president.
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know how to come up with a plan, and I got I got this whole campaign team, and they try to like push me in certain directions, and that's one of the things that they're like, you need to come up with a uniform plan, and I'm like, how do I have a uniform plan in the abstract without the Postal Service, right? I mean, there's different options on ways to do it. The only thing that I've stated definitively is that we need to walk into contract negotiations and just say this: Postal Service, you're the ones that give us an obligation to be in uniform. You're the ones that want us to be in uniform, which, let's say we don't want to be in uniform because we like the professional look as well, but you're the ones that have the requirement, therefore you got to pay for it. And so whatever we do at the end of this negotiating period or this arbitration or whatever we do here, you're going to pay the cost. And I think as soon as we get that established, then you sit down with them and say, okay, how can we work out a program that's going to save money? Because it's going to save you money, and now you care, you the post office, now all of a sudden you care to negotiate, because right now the post office is not negotiating over the uniform prices or the uniform program, because the burden is on us. You know, the costs go up, and we have to shoulder that, and we have to figure that out, and we got to figure out, do I want to buy pants or do I want to buy a rain jacket or, whatever. And so it's all on us. But if it was on them, then it opens up the options. I think most people think that if the post office ran their own uniform program, that they could do it cheaply. Like, I don't know, these companies, I don't know if it's Aramark or these companies that, let's say you work at a garage or something. You always see that, like when you change oil and stuff. They'll bring them their uniforms every Friday and change them out, and they got their name on the tag, right, whose it is. And so it would seem that something like that they could do, and then it would be their responsibility to provide the uniform. I think you and I were talking before we got on this thing about having a program where you would get different uniforms in different parts of the country. Some parts of the country, they don't even need pants, right? Yeah. It's like, you got to waste no money on that, but they do need more pairs of shorts. They might need the stuff to protect their arms. They might need the hat for the sun. Other places it rains a lot. You better get them a rain jacket on day one, versus other places, that can be like maybe comes later or something like that. You could have a system where it's like a certain number of credits, like a USPS store, and I give you 100 credits every year, and you can spend them how you want, kind of thing. There's some discussion about how you doing. You gotta look at the camera. We're gonna move it a little bit for you.
Oh, sorry. Is there
Yep. You're on camera now, son.
Hello.
You're here. All right. So if you're gonna talk, we got a little microphone, and I got a microphone.
All right, sounds good. Thank
All right.
you.
First thing you gotta say, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Chris.
What's your business here?
I'm with NALC, Branch 701. I'm here for the meeting. Mike Cariff today.
Chris, how much time you got in the post office?
Oh, boy, it's been 4 years now. I spent the first 2.5 as a PTF, and then I got my CCA. My bad. Sorry, it was the last 6 months of that was PTF, and then just got my own route for the last. It's been about a year and a half, 2 years now.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
We were in the middle of talking about some of the contract stuff, and we were on the uniform allowance. So, and let's ask you, as a new employee, how was it trying to stay in uniform? Here in Montana, I've heard that some days are like bitter cold, and some days are super hot in the summertime.
Yeah.
So the range of weather is a lot here. So how did you handle that as a CCA and a PTF?
I'll say that if I didn't get lucky and I didn't get hand-me-downs from some of the older carriers, that for that first year or two, I would have had to choose between a winter, like a bomber jacket or a raincoat, and
Right.
that's like kind of the hard part. Is
You
that,
need both.
yeah, you need both, especially for weather around here. Because like I got lucky, like I said, I managed to get one, but if we had more money, it'd be really nice because then we could get everyone outfitted, for the all weather and all seasons right away.
Yeah. You guys got any more comments on the uniform stuff? You want to go
Yeah.
over a little bit what you were talking about
Yeah.
earlier?
What I was talking about earlier when I was, me and Mike were out a little bit before this, was I wanted to say to run the program through the Postal Service, have the Postal Service purchase all the things. So, 600,000 pairs of pants and, 1,000,000 shirts and long sleeve and short sleeve and whatever else it is. And then come up with a thing that says, hey, if you're working out of Buffalo, New York, you might need more cold weather gear than the carriers in Phoenix.
Yeah.
The carriers in Phoenix, they get shorts and t-shirts and a sun hat and a few other things and maybe a raincoat. Whereas in other places, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and Montana, you need more all-weather options. And so if they were to just say, we're going to send all that stuff to the training areas and create a uniform closet there, and maybe they don't let you shop there until you've made it through your probation. But once they do, they say, okay, this is what you're being issued. Here you go. This is all the stuff you need right now. And then maybe as stuff wears out, you can just go and say, hey, I need another one of these. And I'm just replacing what I've already been issued.
Yeah, you like turn it in or something.
Yeah, you turn this in, they repair it, send it back.
But what you were saying, the big chunk of that is that the Postal Service could contract out that work order or whatever, that job of fulfilling this uniform mandate, and they could put it out for a bid. See what the bids come in, just kind of like what they did with the next generation delivery vehicle. See what bid comes in, what quality of fabrics, what type of company, whatever, and you could save money because you're buying in bulk now.
Right.
You're buying for hundreds of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of pieces of each uniform item or whatever. You would think that they would be able to negotiate a cheaper price if they did it that way.
Yeah,
So-
because
I did have one quick question with that. One of the big problems I feel right now with the current way the uniforms are set up is that all the uniforms, especially like a majority of the companies we'll hear about, are owned by the same company right now.
Right.
Like
Gulls.
you'll go to Skaggs, it's owned by Gulls. You go by anywhere else, it's most likely owned by the same people. And because of that, they can jack up the price because they know that there's nowhere else to go, basically. I mean, I had to do a ton of digging to find a supplier who actually sells it way below what the Gulls company is. When it came
You're not going to tell them your little secret? Hold it down.
it's uniform bonus. I love them. They're really great. But my thing is that if we were going to give the contract all to one set of people, right? How do we prevent them from gout? Because I don't know. I mean, the thing is, I feel I'm worried that we're going to get gouged.
No, we would make it so the post office would pay the cost.
Okay, so the post office pays the cost, but then the post office is going to say you get a certain amount for. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, so we would negotiate either a full uniform type of deal, like this is what represents a full uniform,
Okay.
and maybe the full uniform is different in different geographic areas,
Yeah.
or you negotiate a credit type system where it's either monopoly money or it's just like a credit, and so they give you 50 credits a year, and each pair of pants is 2 credits, something like that.
Okay.
And then you get what you want or what you need,
Yeah.
and they pay the cost. But
Okay.
the key is always that they pay the cost.
Okay.
As long as we're paying the cost, it's going to be this mess. And the other thing we were talking about, just for everyone's information, is one of the things that drives up the cost a lot is that there's a law that governs the Postal Service that says that they have to, in order to be a licensed uniform vendor, you have to use uniforms made in the USA, and not just assembled in the USA, but the fabric, the stitching, the everything throughout the whole process has to be done in the USA, which is not a bad thing, but there's just not a lot of clothes manufacturers that do all of those different tasks.
Yeah.
I actually heard that the color, the light blue color, and this comes from Jim Yates, who is our director of life insurance, but he's also traditionally been over the uniform program on behalf of the NELC, negotiating with the Postal Service on some things. He says that color dye is expensive in and of itself, that if you would use a slightly different color, that would save money. Just that would save money. I'm sure there's other things, but I mean, the quality of the uniforms is garbage. You know, they don't last, and the cost is ridiculously high. And it's like, what really pissed me off about the last contract, and as we were talking about, like, reasons why people voted down the last contract. One of the reasons why I voted down the last contract is because in the previous contract, the 2019 to 2023 contract, there was language that said that there would be a task force between the union and Postal Service to study ways to run a better uniform program. And then when they presented us this current contract, it had the exact same language in there. And I'm like, why would I want a task force to study something that didn't study anything last time? Like, how can I vote for that? That's not, you didn't solve that problem at all. And ironically, I guess we'll get into it at some point here, 90 days into this thing, we haven't progressed at all on the uniform thing.
No, we haven't.
Go ahead, Russ.
And the only thing I've seen from the task force is a few different uniforms that were approved of.
And you know what? That's actually that's almost a separate thing. So we have an ongoing. It's in the contract under the uniform section. What's that? Article 26. It's about having a committee to look at the different types of fabric. So we're always looking for more like dry fit type stuff. We're trying to get them to approve like hoodies and things to protect your arms in like Florida and Puerto Rico and stuff. So there's like uniform items. But this other task force was specifically to study another method of providing the uniforms. Like, can we go to a quartermaster system? Can we go to a central warehouse type system? Can we go to where the post office hires one contractor to make the uniforms and negotiates a rate with them? Whatever, you know, that task force is the one that bore no fruit. The other one we have some progress on, but very limited. But like you've seen, for example, where you see the pocket.
The cargo pants?
Yeah,
cargo pants.
Cargo type pants.
Which are more expensive than anything else you can buy.
But that was something that came out of that committee but you got to get the post office to agree. There's certain things like we were talking about earlier. They don't want to agree to the hoodie. They don't want to agree to certain things for like outdated reasons. We're trying to get them to change the rules where they make you wear a tie if you're wearing a long sleeve shirt, or you can only wear certain items in certain seasons. And, you know, we want to get them to relax the restrictions or the rules on uniform shoes. Do you guys wear the official shoes?
No.
Stop the recording. But I forget where I was in a post office somewhere in Utah, and I think it was in Utah, and I seen someone walking with they were carrying their like black Nikes, and I knew exactly what they were doing. Same thing that I've done many, many times, which is you wear that uniform item in the office, and then as soon as you get to the street, you do the Mr. Rogers and you put on. But we've been trying to get them to relax so that you don't have to have that green tag. I mean, there's nothing about them green tag shoes that are any safer than any other shoe or whatever.
No, most carrier that's been carrying for years, or especially on a walking route, they're going to tell you most of those green tag shoes aren't good for walking on all day.
That's what I say.
You know, you find a good pair of hiking shoes,
Some
a good pair of
people
walking
like
shoes.
I'll say it's not universal, but yeah, a good pair of walking shoes, athletic shoes, whatever, what we call gym shoes, hiking. Some people wear like hiking boots and things like that. Lot more comfortable. If you just had a rule that said get whatever you want as long as they're black.
Yeah, and they're going to last longer.
Yeah, I mean, let's move on. You know, like, why do we have to have all these damn restrictions?
To my knowledge, no one in our branch wears the postal approved shoes. I mean,
tell
no
the
one.
Postmaster.
It's not like he doesn't know.
They're
not wearing them every day at stand-up.
They're going to come up with a new rule from district tomorrow.
But
district is saying you got to be in proper uniform.
Me and Russ, we have footwear provided by the VA for specific,
like orthopedic.
Yeah, for specific reasons. And there's several people that are like that. But I mean, the shoes that, to my knowledge, that the Postal Service issues are complete garbage. No one I mean, not even the most loyal senior carrier has
Right.
ever said to me, "Oh, you should buy the postal shoes because they're good."
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
what do you guys? So does the VA actually assist in buying the shoes, or they just provide with the prescription?
the
Montana VA has a deal with Kenetrex here.
What's Kenetrex?
It's a brand of hiking shoes.
Okay.
That they actually issue us shoes.
Oh, really? And they pay for it?
They pay for 100%.
Oh, that's awesome. So then you just tell the postal service, "This is my prescription or what I need,"
And the VA,
and they
actually,
provide it
yeah,
for it.
VA actually writes us.
I wonder if
No.
you guys check on that. VAs out there, if they have other type of deals out there.
Yeah,
I was
because Kenetrex actually made here in Montana.
That's great. I was telling Sean, we do this thing in my branch 11 now. They'll have like a seminar for veterans, to come into the union hall like on a Sunday. They'll do it maybe every couple times a year or quarterly or whatever. And, come talk to them about a lot of things that they might not be aware of. If you got an impairment rating, how to get it, certain services that are provided by the VA, medical stuff, things about your retirement, things that, like in Illinois, you get free license plates, free public transportation, things like that. If you're a veteran, a lot of people don't, they don't know about these things, but I think that's really cool. That's an area where I think as a union we could probably do a little bit better. I mean, we got the veterans group, and you can get that manual that's very valuable from the NELC website, veterans benefits and things like that, and of course we file grievances and all that type of stuff. One thing I was going to tell you guys, we're going to have, and this for everyone out there too, we're going to have a resolution because it passed in my branch, so I'm aware of it. We're going to present the resolution at the convention in Los Angeles. And what it says is that the NELC should negotiate legislatively so that the law will dictate that if you're hired by the United States Postal Service, from day one, you're in career status if you have military service. So the whole veterans preference, let's make it a real preference. Let's make it mean something. If you got a certain number of years, let's say 3 years or whatever, veteran service, or maybe just the rules that apply to, your point system or whatever it is, if you have that preference, that means they're going to have to hire you as a career employee from day one. If they're doing it now, they can do it. They can do it for veterans. So
Yeah.
I think we should fight for that.
Yeah, which leads into my next question about non-career employees.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on that? Because, I mean, we're kind of hearing from Renfro, he's already kind of given up on the non-career.
Well,
Of the non-career.
the last contract, we got no improvement whatsoever in the non-career classification. So when we got the DAS award, that was after the 2006 to 2011 contract. We got, the TEs became CCAs. And that was, the pay dropped tremendously, whatever, right? We know everything that happened as a result of that. The first contract after that was this one became the 2011 to 2016 contract. And in 2017 was when we settled that contract and we got the increase for the former TEs. They got the step increase. You guys remember that?
Yep.
And then we did the next contract, which was the 2016 to 2019 contract. And in that contract, we got the maximum amount of time you could spend was 2 years in the non-career classification. Because prior to that, we had people that were non-career before your time. They were non-career like up to like 5 years. And it was crazy. And so they got that written into the contract we didn't get the contract until the spring of 2021. But when it went into effect, it was a 2-year maximum. And then you get into the 2019 to 2023 contract, and there was zero improvement. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? We started negotiations. If you go back and listen to President Renfro's opening statement on the contract negotiations in 2023, February 22nd, I think it was, 2023, he said our main focus is eliminating the non-career position and talked about how detrimental it's been, right?
Sure.
You're not getting quality applicants. I mean, we're talking about people that served in the military. What are you guys seeing? And you go to the carrier academies, right?
Yes.
Are you seeing a lot of people coming out of the military that are applying for the job?
Not anymore. We
Yeah.
used to.
Exactly. That's what I think too. And so I think there's a very strong argument that can be made for a lot of things. there's not any non-career mechanics in the post office. There's not any non-career tractor trailer operators in the post office. Why are there non-career letter carriers? The letter carrier job, the problem is they treat the letter carrier job like they treat any other job in the post office. Oh, we just need a body. No, you need like a qualified person that is representing the brand out there in the community that can do all the things that are required to do it safely, to do it efficiently, and provide consistent service to the public. That's a higher level position than somebody who's working as a mail handler or something like that. And so we could logically make the argument that the non-career position doesn't apply, and we said we were going to do this and we didn't do it. And so my position is that we can go in front of a neutral arbitration panel. We won't get it from the post office, but we can go in front of a neutral arbitration panel and we can make that argument. And I'll tell you another thing. When the post office came to us and they said that, because I know we were talking about this earlier too, like in Bozeman, Montana, they hire directly to career. They hire PTFs.
Yes.
And so we allowed, as a union, for there to be different contracts in different places. Instead, what we should have done is when they came to us and they said, we're not able to hire in San Francisco and Boston and Bozeman, Montana, we should have said, you know what? This is the United States Postal Service. We're the National Association of Letter Carriers. And if you can't hire people in San Francisco, you're going to have to raise the rate of pay so that you can have employees everywhere and you can have a service that delivers mail to the American people no matter where they live. And we could have used that as leverage to bring up the pay. But I think we can use it as leverage in front of an interest arbitration panel to try to get rid of the CCA classification and everyone start off as career and everyone start off at a rate of pay that's at least higher than what the clerks make, which means $30 an hour.
Well, and I agree with you because one of the arguments they make against regional COLAs is a carrier is a carrier is a carrier.
Exactly.
But here you are as a CCA, as a carrier is not a carrier.
So how do you do that? And people ask me this question too. They'll say, well, what is your opinion on the locality pay and those type of resolutions? And I always say, look, if I'm the president of the NELC, I operate under the direction that the delegates give me from the convention. That's the supreme body of the union. And the delegates have consistently said, at least up until now, it'll come up again in Boston and we'll vote. I mean, not Boston, LA, and we'll vote on it, and maybe it changes. But up until now, and as President Renfro went into the last round of negotiations and this round of negotiations, the position of the union, as set by the delegates to the convention, the supreme body of the union, is that a letter carrier is a letter carrier. And so use that leverage to say, look, I got to negotiate a contract that works for my brothers and sisters in Boston, in Bozeman, in Missoula, in every, in Chicago, Illinois, in every part of the world or every part of the country. And so what does that contract mean? And to me, that means that at a bare minimum, it needs to be $30 an hour. And I think I can justify that to a neutral arbitration panel if you, the Postal Service, are not willing to negotiate in good faith.
Yeah, the thing I find so interesting about that argument is that that's not the case. There is locality pay in Hawaii. There is locality pay in Guam. There is locality pay in.
Those are dictated by states.
No, it's in the law. It's
Alaska, and I mean, there's
Alaska, Guam, Hawaii. The federal law.
Puerto Rico, maybe.
Puerto Rico, no. The federal law requires the Postal Service to pay a T-COLA, a territorial COLA, for people that live and work in those areas.
Yeah.
So you could change the law, for example, if we wanted to. If the members of the union wanted to pursue this, we could try to get similar type legislation to get territorial COLAs all across the country in any place that has a higher cost of living.
Yeah. And the thing that's so crazy about it is that if you raise the pay, you're going to get more people. And if you actually were to staff to the levels that we're supposed to be staffed at, because I don't know any place that doesn't say we're short-staffed, then what you would get is you'd get more people paying into your retirement, you get more people paying into your health care, and those costs would go down.
Right. And as a company, your overtime costs would go down. I mean, we negotiated a new rate of pay double time and a half last time, you would think that would incentivize the employer to try to increase the number of employees to reduce having to pay double time and a half, but it really hasn't. It doesn't seem to have worked that way. But there are places.
No, they're like paying that.
It's not their money. It's not their money, but.
So I did have a quick question then, so my thing is that I'm living here in Missoula, and I really like it here, but one day I may move somewhere else, and I'm really afraid that I'm going to move somewhere else, and I'm going to stick with the Postal Service, and the next thing you know, I can't afford to live in those places like we were just saying. So you are going to work on like trying to get higher levels of pay then like, for example, if I moved to a bigger city on the coast, that's kind of what we're thinking.
Well, it depends on what the members want.
You gotta get the mic.
Oh, sorry.
It depends on what the members want. Is what you're saying. That has to be a resolution that gets passed at the national convention, which you're going to.
Yeah.
You're going to the convention this year?
Yeah.
Awesome. This first one?
First one. Oh yeah, I have one more question. So speaking on the
let's come back to that in a second.
All right, sounds good. So then speaking on the pay thing, you're saying we should all start off at $30 an hour. Do you think it's going to be easier to bump the 30 on table 2 or to eliminate table 2?
Well, I think we have, we were talking about this earlier too. We have one pay scale now for all intents and purposes. They said that everyone that was on table 1 is administratively placed into table 2. I just look at, we have 2 pay scales. You have the CCA pay, and then you have the career pay, which is basically the table 2 pay chart. I just think you need to negotiate a better pay chart. So the better pay chart, I think the main things you're looking for, I think there's 4 things you would look for in a better pay chart. You would look for higher starting pay and higher pay at the back end, because I think that although $41 an hour is decent, if UPS drivers are going to be making $49, why should we make any less, So I think you got a good argument there.
Yeah. And then on reducing time to get the top step, is that also going to be a focus?
So that would be another thing. How long it takes to get there, and then what is the time between steps would be another thing. So right now it's 46 weeks between steps. APWU has, I think, as low as 34 weeks in some of those steps. So if I'm in A and I'm waiting to get to B, if I get there in 34 weeks instead of 46, I get there 12 weeks faster. That saves, that's more money in my pocket. The last thing is the cost of living. If the cost of living was applied as a dollar amount at every step, that would be more money for us versus, so there's a lot of things you look at in the pay chart, I think. And just, you start with the way it is now doesn't work, and you try to improve upon it.
Yeah, so I actually have thought about this particular issue a lot, and I actually have a fairly detailed proposal for you on this.
Oh, okay.
Listen to this.
Did you write it out?
Oh, no. Well, I've written it out a couple of times, but I've thought it through very carefully. So here's the thing that I want that I think is a compromise position to start with and could be a good basis for negotiations in the future, but would help tremendously immediately. So you keep CCAs for the probationary period, and you start them at $30 an hour. That's 8 pay periods. That gives you 2 weeks for orientation and driver training and academy and shadow day and all that stuff. And then you have the NERP, and you have 4 weeks at the 40-hour restriction, and you have another 4 weeks at the 56-hour restriction. Then you'd have 3 pay periods at unrestricted. When they clock in the first day on pay period 9, they're a career carrier. Their pay goes up $2 an hour.
No, right now it goes up $5. Well, you're saying if they started at 30.
So you start at 30.
Right.
They clock in on the 9th pay period. Now they're at 32. We have 15 pay steps from B to P. So you're starting at B. Your pay increases every 6 months. Every 26 weeks, 13 pay periods, you go up another $1 an hour. That caps out the top step at $46 an hour. That would happen in 7 years. Then what you do is after 10 years, you increase the match on the TSP by 1%. This would top out at a 10% match at 30 years.
And 30 years will be the cap.
Yeah, 30 years would be the cap, 10% match. That would encourage people to stay after 30 years because of that match if they happen to get hired earlier. Then what you need to do is allow everyone else, like me and Chris, to buy back our CCA time up to those first 8 pay periods and apply that to the pay chart.
Yeah. But 8 pay periods is not as much as
Yeah. And
I mean, we
so
got people that have like 12
basically
years of non-career time now.
This is what this allows, or what this forces, is management to say, is this someone I want to keep? They have 8 pay periods to figure that out. Because as soon as they get to 9,
Right.
they're a career employee, and now the full effect of the contract is behind them, and all the other stuff is done.
Right. Yeah,
So-
the non-career classification only makes sense in a probationary setting.
Yeah. That's
After
the
the
only way I
probationary
would keep
setting,
it.
it doesn't make any sense. It's
Yeah.
like the logic of it is
So-
out the door.
You know, there's a lot of jobs out there with a probationary period. Hey, how's it going?
How you doing?
But
Good, how are you?
that's
You
the
getting in on
proposal
this?
I have for that.
Laura, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Mike.
Good to meet you.
Hey,
How are you? Good to see you.
But
Grab a seat.
she was going to be the president.
Yeah.
I'm still upset that she's not the president of the union.
You're doing a great
But she
job.
just graduated from law school.
Not graduated.
You're not graduated yet?
It's 3 years.
I thought
just
it was
finished
2.
the second year.
I thought it was 2 years.
Oh.
You got to give her the microphone, otherwise we
Oh,
can't hear.
are we on?
You're over there.
You're over
Oh, hi
All
guys. Hi, Russ.
right, Laura, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your business here.
Hello, everyone. What am I on? A podcast? or
No, we're
something?
just recording it,
Okay.
so yeah, it'll get put out eventually.
All
so.
right. Well, my name is Laura Llewellyn. I am an honorary Branch 701 union member. I decided that I wanted to expand and go back to law school so that I could help our brothers and sisters in other ways. So I'm focused right now on workers' comp, Social Security, disability, SSI, and kind of anything else that you guys might need help with in the future. I'm your girl.
So you used to be a carrier, and
I
not
was a carrier for 6 years. I was a shop steward and vice president,
Yep.
secretary. I mean, we kind of ran all the roles. Pretty small office, so kind of everything.
She was a big part of helping Branch 701. She was a big part of helping Branch 701 out and bringing it up. And
awesome. Laura, appreciate you. What are you doing now?
So I'm in law school right now, and I am working for a disability law firm in Alaska remotely, and kind of helping these guys wherever I can.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
You still got the nice little hoodie there, or
Heck.
whatever that thing's called?
Yeah, I designed this logo for our crew.
Did you? That's nice.
Yeah. Like I
I
said,
like
we
it.
wear a lot of hats.
Awesome. Okay. We left off. I was gonna ask you to let Chris know. Well, no, tell him what he has to look forward to. This is Chris's first national convention. What does he have to look forward to?
it will be an eye-opening experience for you. For me, it was, as a smaller branch, it really made me realize how small Montana was as a group.
Right.
Um,
You don't get your own row.
no, no. Well, last time it was 3 of us that went from Montana.
Right.
This time there's 7 that are going. So we're a little bit bigger this year. But yeah, there's a lot of resolutions on the floor. A lot of communicating back to the branch. Hey, how do you guys want to do this? How do you guys want to vote on it? Because we're going there as members of the branch. You know, and you should be voting how the branch wants you to vote. Because we're representing the branch. A lot of classes. It's huge. There's nothing like the national convention. It's huge.
What do you guys, as far as paying your delegates and all that, is it a heavy burden? One of the things I'm seeing, the reason I'm asking this question is, it seems to have gotten more expensive to go to the national conventions, and it's caused branches, I think, to look at scaling back, which I think is terrible because, you know, one, that's where your voice is heard, the supreme body, but there's just so much. I mean, you meet so many people, and there's classes, and there's just so much there that experiences you're not going to get anyplace else. It just seems like we need to figure out a way for it to be cheaper so branches can send more people. What's you guys' experience been?
I completely agree with you, and that's one of the reasons why the state of Montana actually put forth a resolution to put a scholarship and program together
For convention delegates.
for convention delegates or
like
rap
to see
session
that.
delegates, for especially the smaller branches of 25 and under. Because how many branches are experiencing that have good stewards that don't ever get to meet that
They're fellow stewards and networking.
networking.
Yeah.
Sorry,
They don't
I was
get the
I was at a
opportunity.
loss of word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that networking that goes on it.
Chris, you should come in some a little bit.
You know,
You can look at it, man.
and get that networking that goes on at national convention. And like I got a member up in Havre, literally has 8-9 members. He's a great steward,
Right.
but he never gets a chance to go anywhere. We
Right.
we make sure he's a state delegate for the state so he can get to state convention.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think that's a great idea, how you would structure it and what would be the criteria. But one thing is you could probably figure out, like give maybe the regional office a budget, and figure it out that way. Or you have like a set criteria and you're going to give out a certain number of scholarships for people to meet that criteria and then maybe just put their names in a hat kind of thing. I don't know, but I think that, the the NELC has a lot of money right now. And so I don't see why we can't, as a union, help out. Some of the small branches, you could save your money as a small branch for like 3 years in a row, and you still don't have enough money to send someone to the national convention. It's just become airfares are high. Them hotel rates are like $300 a night. And then, you're in these real high cost of living areas where if you want to go eat, meal, everything is just expensive. And then you add in, if you're paying for their lost time, which not every branch does, but if you're paying them for their, missing out on work or whatever, it's a lot.
Yeah, Missoula's been we're the second largest city in Montana. But for a long, long time, it cost twice as much to fly out of Missoula as it did Spokane.
Right.
And so a lot of times people would go, do I want to drive to Spokane to save money on the airfare?
Right.
Well, if you're in Lewistown, or if you're in Havre, or if you're in, Webo, or, some of these Miles City, you've got to drive.
I know those places. Yep.
Just to get to an airport that might be able to do this.
Right.
And so the goal that I had when we proposed that resolution, and you'll hear about it at convention, is to get one member from every state I set the threshold at 50 members and less. So my branch wouldn't qualify for that scholarship. We're sending 3 people to national convention. We budgeted for it. That's the big expense this year, really.
Right.
But we have enough money that we can send people to state convention. We can send people to Stewart College. But we're pretty much as small as you can be and still be able to do that. But for these smaller branches, there's just no way. And so the goal is to get one from every state. Well, I don't know. Rhode Island probably isn't going to apply to because there's probably just Providence in Rhode Island.
Now, there's more branches in Rhode Island.
Missoula County is bigger than Rhode Island.
Right.
So, it's just a fact. But, for
Rhode Island.
I didn't know there was fighting among smaller states.
But I don't know how it works in like Hawaii, if they're all been consolidated into that one branch or not.
No, different branches.
Or there's like 6 there's 6 or 7 branches in Alaska. I don't know what they're doing, but when me and Russ were at the national convention in Boston, we were sitting next to this branch from South Florida.
Oh, 1071.
They sent 150 people to the national convention.
Yeah, we send at least 200.
In
my branch 11, we send at least 200.
That's more than the total membership of my branch. Yeah. It's just a fact, and we need to try and increase that participation.
No,
I would
agree.
love to see, because there was like travel committees and other committees at the convention that did reports. Why can't there be a high quality steward from Havre, Montana, on that committee that goes to national convention?
And then the NELC just pays for it. So one thing about the convention that is like a pet peeve of mine, and it's been that way for a long time. So you mentioned going over the resolutions and the amendments ahead of time with the members of the branch, because whoever goes is a delegate to the convention, but they're also a delegate from the branch, meaning they're representing the other members that don't get a chance to go, and you can't afford to send everyone, kind of thing. So we're looking at the resolution. So we have a whole tab on the Care for Pres website. It's like all the resolutions and amendments. And I know there's been, so this message to you guys, if you have resolutions that you just got passed recently and you don't have it on the Care for Pres website, if you send it to us, we'll put it on there so that everyone can see what those resolutions are and we can talk about them ahead of time. But I hope when we get to the convention that they won't do this thing where someone gets to the microphone and as soon as we bring up a topic, I call for the question. And I hate that, right? Like you just duck your head down. I hate it, man. It's like we came all the way this way. We spent all this money, and it's like now is our chance to debate. Like you get big issues like locality pay. Like I want to hear from at least 5, 6, 7 people on this, different opinions before we vote on it, because this is a very critical vote for our union. That's what we're here for. Let's not call for the question. The other thing I didn't like last time, they did this thing where they made a motion to pass all of the approved. So all the resolutions and amendments go to the executive council first, where they get submitted to the secretary treasurer. Secretary treasurer provides all of them to the executive council so we can discuss them ahead of time, and we'll make a recommendation of approval or disapproval. And then the delegates, of course, they either adopt the recommendation of the executive council, or they say no, we don't agree with that, right? And so they put forth a motion on the floor last time that said that any resolution that was recommended for approval by the executive council, we'll just approve all of those in block. And I'm like, wait a second, the supreme body hasn't even seen these things yet. Like they might be printed in the book, but you haven't had a chance to digest it or whatever. And so traditionally what we've done, and I hope we would do it this time, is if there's a motion that is made similar to that anyone that wants to pull out any resolution or amendment and say, I want to pull it out and discuss it separately and not vote on them in block, then we can do that. Because if I see something, and I've seen, for example, bargaining resolutions that the executive council will approve, and now it becomes the official bargaining position of the NELC. But I'm a delegate to the convention. I don't agree with that. I think we should have the opportunity to vote on those things individually. If somebody wants to, we pull it out and we vote on it individually. If nobody wants to pull it out, then by all means, pass them by unanimous consent, save time, be efficient. There's no problem with that. But I'll raise one more thing about the convention. I don't know if you guys got anything else. One thing that I'd like to see, in addition to bringing down the cost, if we're going to have a welcoming reception on Sunday afternoon-ish, evening, we need to have some better quality food and drink for our members. We were in Boston last time, and there was no clam chowder. There was no Sam Adams. We were in Chicago in 2022, and there wasn't the Chicago food. There wasn't no damn, there wasn't no Portillo's or, So, I mean, the union has enough money. We can afford. Our people are spending a lot of money. I know we kind of laugh about it, but it's disrespectful. Our people are spending a lot of their dues money to come to the convention. Let's take care of them,
So we're talking in Grillos instead of Vlasic, right?
Yes.
Okay, because I just switched last week. Can't go back. If I show up and there's a jar of pickles and if it's not Grillos, I don't want them.
Exactly. You get the idea. We deserve the best.
I did have one other thing on the convention that I found quite unusual.
Yeah.
At the convention, they had an opening prayer every day.
Okay.
And they were always Christian.
Nah, not usually.
Every single one of them.
You sure about that?
I'm absolutely positive.
Usually we'll get a Jewish prayer, a Muslim prayer.
Yeah.
Not in Boston.
Not in Boston. And then we had a whole...
I know we had it in Chicago.
I know we had a whole string of...
We'll have it in L.A.
Of political speeches.
Yeah.
That were all Democratic.
Now, usually they'll throw a couple Republicans in there.
Right. I think we had one Republican.
Yeah.
But, you know, the two things that you never talk about at a family reunion are religion and politics.
Right.
And don't look now, but Montana's kind of red, just a tad. You know, and so by having this major Democratic focus in the political speakers, it has to alienate this huge central part of the country that is not generally Democratic.
So, what do you guys position on? Because I saw an amendment on a resolution on
Yeah.
this, that the NELC not make endorsements in like for president or
I
whatever.
agree 100%.
You agree?
Yeah.
No endorsement.
Yeah, no endorsement because it's
No matter what the process.
No matter
Because
what-
some people will say we got to have a better process,
uh-huh.
and then some people say let's just get out of the endorsement game completely.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're a government union, so we got to work with whoever it is.
Correct.
And so, if you're gonna have the prayers, then they need to be wide ranging. There needs to be the, you know,
But there's
the Muslim.
more. There's more than 5 religions in the world. So
I know. I mean, you can't do them all, but
that could be a problem. But
Well, speaking on your political endorsement too, you got to remember we're a broad range of a union. We have people from every branch. I mean, every
walk of life,
walk of life and everything like that. No matter if you start endorsing anything, let alone we have to work with that person that we don't endorse if they
Right.
win. We're also alienating some of our members.
Someone who's paying dues and saying my union is putting their resources behind something that I'm not in favor of.
You know, just let's focus on union.
Yeah. I know we've always had, and I think we should still, I think that we should still have endorsements for sure in the congressional races, because that's somebody that's going to cast a vote, and you want to know how they're going to cast a vote.
Yeah.
But the president, you know, they're not a lawmaker per se, and maybe that's something that we stay away from. I don't know. I don't know exactly how I feel about it, but I do know that there's a lot of people that feel that way, that we should just get out of the endorsement game completely and be done with it. I'm real curious to see how that turns out. Hopefully we'll have a nice discussion on it and nobody calls for the question right away, you know, and let's make a decision.
I didn't agree with the call for a question right away either.
Yeah. I mean, some things they're not, it's not a big debate. Okay, let's call for the question. Let's move on. I understand the efficiency, and one of the jobs of the president is running the convention. You're the chair of the convention. And so me thinking about, like, if I'm the president, I'm going to have to figure out what are things that are more significant that we want to have more discussion about, and what are some of the things where, okay, let's just move on, because, you know, you're dealing with people's time and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, but a lot of the call to questions down at Boston were people from Renfro's side.
Yeah, just let's get rid of this thing.
Let's just get rid of this. Let's call the question
Right.
real quick and move it on.
Yeah, I don't like that. I firmly believe that as a leader, that what you want is to have discussion and discourse, and you got to kind of organize that as a unit. That's one thing we haven't been very good at, but we're getting better, like with this election. And so, like you guys seen, I did, you know, me and Nick, we did the whole interview thing, or, you know, show thing. And, you know, we disagree on a lot of things, but how do you have discourse within the union amongst people that have disagreements? And so with this election, at first, I noticed that when I first said I'm running for president, it was like this big, like, cold air. It was like, oh, you're really on the outside here, that, you know, you would do that. And it's almost like you offend me that versus now I'm seeing a lot more where it's people appreciate the fact that they're going to have options, and that, you know, I mean, that's what I'm doing it for, right? And so it should be viewed as a positive thing, whether you plan to vote for me or not, whether you know, agree with the things I'm saying or whatever. Just the fact that I'm running is a positive thing, and it should be good for everyone. I feel the same way about the things that are brought up at the convention. I appreciate what someone brings up for discussion amongst all the delegates, whether I personally agree with it or not. That's not really relevant. Is this a discussion that's going to help our union to move forward and to figure out what direction we want to go in? If the answer is yes, then we want to have that discussion, and we want to have a deeper discussion, and we want to have a discussion where more people can communicate. So I think the person that's running the convention has to take themselves out of it. And, you know, we could talk about President Renfro's weaknesses, you know, all day long. We're not going to spend the whole time talking about it.
They have to be neutral.
But one of his weaknesses is that we don't trust him. We don't trust what his motivation is, right? You think that his motivation is personal in nature and not in motivation of what is best for the union. And because he's, we've seen a lot of his actions, and he goes to the wall when it affects him personally, but when it affects the members of the union, you don't see that same level of engagement and passion that's something that affects him. And to me, that's a big problem. You got to be able to trust the president. And I've been saying kind of on the campaign trail, I'm spending a lot of time going everywhere. Like, I don't mind today that we didn't have this big turnout or whatever, because I got to meet you guys. Right. And to me, it's important that every member of the union have a chance to know who I am, not just like read the platform, but actually interact with me in some way, so that you will know the person that I am and trust that I'm here. If I am elected president, you can be confident that you're electing a person who's going to represent you at all times, no matter how I feel personally. I know that I represent you guys. It's not about what I want. It's about what do the members of the union want. And I want you to know that and feel that, and, get to know. And that you can disagree with me, and that's fine, but you're going to know where I stand, and you're going to know what my motivation is at all times. And that's just really been important to me, and it's something I've learned and I've kind of grown with as I've went around the country to all these different places, because I've been a lot of places now, and it's been great. I'll tell you another thing. Everyone does stuff differently. You talk about like opening prayer. Some branches have prayers. Some of them do like a prayer in the beginning, a prayer at the end. Some don't do no prayers at all. I was in Denver. They have their own pledge. They have like an oath or something. Everyone stands up, looks at the flag, and then they started saying something that I was like, what are they talking about? It was their own, pledge or whatever. You got to learn it, man. If you do transfer to Denver, you have to learn it. Let's get back to the transfer thing. I know I've been going on a lot. Maybe I need to talk a little bit less. You guys just cut me off. The transfer. So if you wanted to transfer, have you looked at the transfer rules at all? Because you brought it up. Give Chris the mic.
I haven't looked at them too much. I know that within the next few years, there's a chance that I may be moving somewhere else. And I guess for me, it's like, I know the process is very slow and it's very drawn out because we have a few people in our office already. I think one of the running jokes is that one of the carriers has been putting in for a transfer for a couple years, and they're like, I'm going to be out of here soon. It's like, we'll see you tomorrow, man.
Right. You ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, so I know that it's really slow and it's inefficient, and one of the things that scares me, and this is just, I know it's not super related, but like the idea that like I can afford to live here just barely, I can't afford to live anywhere else that on this job, and that's what kind of scares me about the whole process, because I love this job, I want to keep doing it, but if it's between like following the people I want to spend my life with and not stay here, it's like, I guess I would have to give this up, and I don't want that to happen.
No, I love the way you frame that thing. To me, it's the United States Postal Service, and one of the great benefits of getting a job, and we used to, before your time, we used to be lined up down the street to work for the United States Postal Service. And one of the things about it is that we're all over the place, right? And so one of the benefits of the job should be that if you want to move, one, the pay should be good enough for you to live anywhere, right? That should be a given, because you're already hiring carriers over there. I mean, how are they living, right? Hopefully they're not all living in their mother's basement, but I know a lot of them are. But the other thing is there needs to be a process to facilitate that. And to me, that's a benefit that the employer, the Postal Service, can give to us. It doesn't cost them anything, right? We already have rules that say you can bid on a route, and when you bid on the route in that post office that you work at, nobody looks at anything. It's just based on your seniority. And why can't the transfer rules be similar? Like, why does there have to be all these impediments and restrictions on transferring? Another thing, the place you want to go to, just go, I mean, this might not be the place you want to go to, but name a place.
Well, I don't know, maybe Seattle or Portland.
Okay, let's say Seattle, Washington, right? Seattle, Washington, tomorrow, is going to hire someone off the street. They're not a letter carrier. They're not governed under the terms of our contract. We don't represent them. They're a brand new person to this letter carrier life. Why can't you get the transfer to Seattle before they hire someone off the street? Like, I understand that if there's a list, you know, like there's certain places around the country where there's a big list they're trying to get into. So I understand you can't just say, Chris, you got your transfer. I mean, there's got to be some type of rules and regulations to it. But what I don't understand is why we're hiring people off the street prior to letting you in. I don't understand why we have a lock-in period and your CCA time doesn't count toward the lock-in period, which is crazy. And I don't understand why there's so many rules, like your work attendance and safety rules matter. I understand that it matters. You have a personnel file. If you have discipline in your folder or whatever your attendance record is, your attendance record goes with you when you go to the other place. There's no rule that says your attendance record is wiped clean. So why is it a reason to stand in your way from getting the transfer? And so it very much frustrates me. What happens is, just so you guys know, there's a transfer memorandum at the end of Article 12, and it's a cross-craft memorandum, meaning it applies to not just letter carriers, but different crafts. And every time we sit down with the Postal Service and we say, hey, we want to change some of the transfer rules, they say, that's going to be a big, she's winning, man. They say that's going to be a big impediment on us, because then we would have to try to either have different rules for different crafts or change the rules or whatever. And I don't understand why. I mean, if we're going to negotiate a contract just for us, then negotiate a contract for us. Like, I don't see why that is always this big wall that keeps us from negotiating better transfer rules than what we have right now. But it's always like that. I would ask you guys a question. What do you guys think? Because I've heard from a lot of carriers that say that there should be nationwide seniority. It's like right now your seniority only counts in the installation that you're working at. So you can have seniority, like you guys have multiple stations here or no?
No. We used to.
Okay.
We've cut it down to one. They moved, consolidated.
So let's say before you had two different stations, right? And when you had two different stations, your seniority applied whether you were at this station or that station.
Yeah.
Well, there's people that say, why can't my seniority apply anywhere in the country? I work for the United States Postal Service. The only question is, how long have I been a letter carrier? And apply that seniority. And then you could possibly have like a bidding type situation where your seniority would apply in transfer situations, just like your seniority applies in bidding situations. It's kind of drastic, and I'm not comfortable pushing that forward unless the delegates to the convention wanted that. But I've heard it from a few carriers, and I just wondered what you guys think about that.
I see where they're trying to go with it, but I'd be against it more because it would hurt the CCAs that have been in the office working,
Right.
and trying to get that up, get that step into a career or into a route.
Well, you could still apply the ratio. So like right now, the ratio is 5 out of 6 or 3 out of 4, depending on the size of the office. So let's say you still applied the ratio, right? So the CCA gets converted, the CCA gets converted, the CCA gets converted. But then when you do take a transfer, that person comes in not with a new period of seniority. That person comes in with whatever seniority they had. How would you feel about that? Because they may leapfrog you.
Well, I mean, I guess I do have one opinion on that, and I don't think that would work in the long run, because I don't know, like the way it is right now. Like, I was a CCA, we had a guy transfer in. He was, he transferred in, right, and I had been at the Missoula station for longer, and it's like, well, great, this is cutting the time. It's taking longer for me to become get my own route there, and I've lived here way longer, so I think that's kind of part of the issue is that where if a lot of people are going to be getting their jobs in their home city when they first join, right?
Right.
Or like something like that. So I think that I think it's, I don't know. I think if you do a trade for a route, that makes sense. You're trading the
A
route
swap.
with, you're doing the swap, right? That makes sense that you get their seniority.
Right.
You know what I mean? That way it doesn't feel like you're losing it, but because like I recently lost my route during the bid down process, and it's like kind of frustrating because it's like, great, like I've been working in Missoula for a lot longer, but I've lost my route and I went to a guy who transferred in when I was a CCA. It's like, I get it, but at the same time, it's like, well, I know it's better. I know it's like the qualifications on that are frustrating. You know what I mean? So I understand where you're coming from, and like it kind of does make sense. But then another problem is you're gonna have a bunch of people with high seniorities fleeing to like, I don't know. I feel like offices or nice areas in the country almost, and it's gonna make it really hard for people who like live there originally to build their life.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's a great point because you have people that, post office has to hire everywhere, and you have people that kind of sacrifice to get into a certain place, right? Let's say you live off the beach or something, right? Like, I can't afford to live here, but I'm going to get my foot in the door, and then it wouldn't be fair if I get my foot in the door and I start moving up, and then people just start transferring in and they leapfrog ahead of me. So I can see that as being a reason not to do it.
Well, and I actually spent 10 years as a clerk and then transferred into the carrier craft.
Right.
And so I lost.
You definitely ain't getting that time.
No, I lost my seniority as a clerk to transfer, but I knew that taking the transfer.
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing. When people apply for a transfer, they're winning. In other words, like, I want to move here, and the post office says yes, and so they're winning. Like, you don't need to give them more. Yeah. But they're already winning. They got the bid. They got the they got to be able to transfer.
You do those understanding that you're going to build back up your time.
Right.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, our office is actually a great microcosm of this. We have a carrier right now who's got like 28 years experience, who did a mutual exchange, and he's currently like he has like 6 years in the office.
Right.
We have another carrier who transferred in, who's got almost the same amount of total time in the service, but he's now got like 2 years in this office.
Because he had to begin a new period of seniority.
He had to begin a new period of seniority. We have one of our senior CCAs was a 10-year letter carrier in Minnesota and tried to transfer and he couldn't do it. So he quit.
Wow.
Gave up his whole career.
I hate to see that.
And now he's a CCA here. And now he wants to move back to Minnesota.
That's terrible.
And so he's going to have to stay here for another 2 years before he can try to transfer back to Minnesota as a PTF.
That's crazy.
We've got another carrier who's got 20 plus years experience who's been trying to transfer to Texas for 2.5 years.
Yeah, them lines, a lot of those places in Texas, in the Dallas area and in the Houston area, those lines are long.
And mostly this is because of the difference between a PTF office and a CCA office. If those offices were all PTF offices, they could transfer because they just go in there as a PTF. They'd lose their seniority just like normal, and they'd be able to transfer down there as a PTF. But because they hire CCAs, they have to convert every single PTF in that office before they can come.
You have to convert.
Have
to convert every PTF.
Yes, you do.
No, you transfer in as a PTF.
Well, right, but if we can hire CCAs, that's why the guy from Minnesota gave up his career and came here as a CCA. Because we always had a PTF on the books, and so he could never transfer in as a PTF because we hire CCAs.
No, so
that's what's blocking him.
No, that's not true. So the ratio would still apply. The way it's written is that if you have PTFs in the office, when you go to fill a vacancy, that you would still apply the same ratio that you would normally apply to 3 and 4, 5 and 6 or whatever. You apply the ratio, and if the person comes in as a transfer within that ratio, then they come in as a PTF because they're going to come in a new period of seniority. But it doesn't mean they can't transfer. The problem with the guy from Minnesota is that the whole time he wanted to transfer to Missoula, the Missoula post office was hiring people off the street while he was sitting in the line. He could have eventually got in, but think about it. If there's 20 people on the list, right? If it's 1 out of every 6 is going to be filled with a transfer, that means you have to have 120 jobs before that person that's 20th on the list to get in. And it just takes too long. Whereas if I'm 20th on the list and they're hiring people off the street, just hire me instead by taking the transfer.
Yeah.
It's got to be a way to do that. It just
I think there's something there that should definitely be looked at and worked out. But yeah, there's definitely some negotiations that would need to be happen there. But
the PTF thing is a little wrinkle.
We have to convert all of our PTFs before we can accept a transfer.
No, that's not true. No, that's actually not true. They don't have to. They could take a transfer within the ratio, but that person would come in as a PTF. They would come in junior to the other PTF that's already in there, and so that PTF that you have would still get the assignment because they have higher seniority. So they would still get the assignment, but then you could take a transfer as well. Okay. That's the way that's worded, and that but it's only 1 out of every 6.
Yeah.
5 out of every 6 are still going to be in-house, movement or whatever. So I don't know. I think that although the transfer memorandum is still in the contract, it's really been watered down. It used to be a minimum, and now they tell us that although the language still says a minimum, that language was overridden by the full-time opportunities memorandum that requires a minimum number of CCA conversions. And we negotiated that when we wanted to get our CCAs converted from non-career to career, which we still do. I mean, the sooner we can get someone from non-career to career, that's a win. But I think you can balance both things. And I think the way you balance it is before you hire a new person off the street, take the damn transfer. And I think that would suit everyone, because it wouldn't hurt the people that are it wouldn't hurt the people that are in line to get that vacancy, because they would still get that vacancy within the minimum transfer ratio. But when you go to hire, that's when you bring in new people, in my opinion.
So that makes a lot of sense. That actually solves, I think, kind of the big issue I was bringing up earlier, is that would help with the you get transferred in, but you're going to be on the bottom of the career list, which I think does make sense.
Right.
So I think that works out. Now, it's been a lot of talking. I'm a little confused. Is that is how it works right now, or is that how we propose it should work?
Well, that's how I propose. I don't even know if there's an official proposal on that, or whatever.
Because I do.
We haven't made any progress on the transfer rules in forever.
Yeah, because I do agree. I think it's not a bad idea that in cases like cities like, I don't know, just say Bozeman, right? That's the only one I can think of, right? If there were people who really wanted to move to Bozeman for some reason, I'm not sure why, but if they wanted to, and there were already people who had joined when they lived in Bozeman, that does make sense, because then when you bring a person in as a hire instead of a CCA, you got someone who already has experience in that job craft already, which I think could also help out, because some guy transferring from Utah to Bozeman with 5 years of letter carrier experience joining as a PTF is going to get a lot more work done as a PTF than a new hire off the street is as a CCA. I think that if that was how we did, I think that would be a good sweet spot to the transfer. That would help people move around while still giving them their career job, and also giving them at least an idea of how long it's going to take to get their new route.
Right.
So one thing I wanted to bring up, Mike, before we get going or anything like that, and one thing that does concern a lot of people in Montana, Arcolate.
It's just in Montana, man. Every place else,
I know.
Every place else is smooth as silk.
Yeah, sure. Confusing.
Yeah,
Confusions.
too confusing.
Too confusion. Too many rules.
And not the rule that we want.
And not the rules that we want.
The rule that we want is that the overtime is going to go to the people that want it, and the people that don't want overtime don't have to work it.
Exactly.
That's all we want. But you got all these pages and memorandums and all this contract language, and we still don't get to that point we want, and it's all confusing. And I would think that the Postal Service would want to simplify it too, because you have all these grievances and all this stuff that goes on.
You call the MBA's office at halftime, you'll get 4 different answers.
It's very confusing. It's very confusing. I think it does need to be simplified. But I think it's got to start with, I don't know. To me, and I guess people have different opinions about this. To me, the mandatory overtime is something that we can win contractually. And I think if you think you can win it contractually, then that gives you leverage in the negotiations with the Postal Service. Because the Postal Service, it's hard to get them to negotiate with us legitimately because they don't want to do anything. They don't want to add no rules. They don't want to do anything. They figure the status quo works for them, in a nutshell. The status quo works fine for them. Well, because they don't care about the consequences and there's no accountability on that side of the table, so it works just fine for them. For us, it doesn't work, and I think there's a lot of ways where, if you look at the bigger picture, they're paying a lot of money in grievance settlements, and they're constantly violating the rules and that kind of thing. But also, I think that they're paying money. I don't know. Do you guys have people that have quit the job over hours of work?
Yes.
I would believe so. Give an example.
Working too many hours.
Give them the mic. Oh.
Working way too many hours.
So is there someone that didn't want to work overtime?
Didn't want to work overtime at all.
Do you know the reason why? Were they just tired, or they had other things they wanted to do?
They wanted a life.
Exactly.
They wanted a life outside the post office. This is not our life. You have to have a work balance.
Exactly. Work-life balance.
Burnout, mental health.
Yeah.
Big issue.
Yeah.
You don't want to give it a mic, huh?
Burnout and mental health are really big issues. I mean, we've had numerous CCAs that have sat around till they were, waiting for a route and then just couldn't do it anymore. We lose really good people because of that, because they just work them like dogs, treat them like shit, and then they get fed up and they find something else. They'll go work at McDonald's for, better conditions.
Yeah, so I think that setting up some basic work rules that would allow for what we were talking about. The people that want the overtime to get it, the people that don't want the overtime, they don't need to work it. And contractually, you can do it. People say you can't, but I'm like, you're not looking at it. First of all, the rural carriers already have it. As a rural carrier, you can't be assigned overtime that's not your route on an NS day or a regular day. Only you have to work your route, but outside of your route, you can't be mandated to work that assignment or on your NS day. That's already in the rural carrier contract. So for people to say it's not possible, it's clearly possible. But also, you look at how our distribution of overtime goes, and it says, for example, you can ask for volunteers. Well, why doesn't it just say you must ask for volunteers? Because a lot of times, even if I don't want overtime, that might mean that I don't want it. I don't want to have the obligation. But on a particular day, either I like the weather, I don't have anything to do after work, or for whatever reason, or I like that piece that's available, So if you offer me that piece, I will say yes. So you should have to take volunteers. You should have to utilize the ODL carriers that want overtime beyond 12 hours. We just negotiated this new rate of pay, right? But it doesn't say that they have to offer the overtime beyond 12 hours. It just says if you work beyond 12, you get paid double time and a half. Why don't we make it say that you have to give them that, double time and a half? Then sometimes, and it might not apply to you guys, a lot of times there's post offices in the vicinity where you have someone on the ODL that might be sitting at home on an NS day or be available or whatever. Utilize the people on the ODL once you've maxed out your ODL prior to going to mandatory overtime. Utilize those people that are available. And so if you do all these things, the last one was if you have a 204B working in the office, they need to be carrying their damn route. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous that they're serving as a temporary supervisor doing nothing while a letter carrier is being forced to work. And so if you put all those rules in place, I think it would reduce the amount of mandatory overtime exponentially. And then you would see that people would keep the job. You'd have more stability. It benefits the employer. None of those things that I brought up cost them any money. It's not an additional rate of pay. It's not, other than the double time and a half, but that was the negotiated rate of pay. They agreed to that, so, but it's not requiring them to do anything different other than utilize the people that utilize what they already have available to them. And then this might be more controversial, I don't know, but why can't we negotiate some type of basic language that says, so let's say you have, how many CCAs you guys have, or CCAs and PTFs?
12.
So you have 12, right? Amongst those 12, there's some that want to work, let's just say Sundays. There's some that want to work because they like the money, and there's some that don't want to work. Why can't it be as simple as saying, you know, if I need 6 people, I'm going to go to the ones that are on the auxiliary workforce desirability list first. You know what I mean? Just write it like that. And then you can say, I want the overtime or I don't want the overtime. And, you know, you're the auxiliary workforce, so we're not going to be able to codify that you can never be assigned overtime, but at least have some type of, you know, preference or something in there. To me, that would be helpful to retaining employees and things like that.
I think one of the other things I've heard, it's an interesting concept. Article 3 says management has the right to hire and fire. What if we made it they have the obligation to hire?
Right, staffing level, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
if you actually, I mean, our office right now is missing 7 people that could carry mail. If you want to make it so that only the people who want to work overtime, well, having an extra 280 straight time hours available every week would make a big difference in that.
So one of the proposals we came up with, I think we had it last time too. And let's not forget to talk about the process for the new contract before we get up out of here. But because that's kind of current. But one of the proposals we submitted out of the committees was that there be a way to determine the number of full-time positions that you have. So right now it says in Article 7.3a, the number of full-time letter carriers you're going to have is based on the amount of routes that you have in the place. And that can be problematic because sometimes they have us doing clerk work and rural carrier work. Sometimes you have a higher percentage of people that are off work, that are holding assignments or whatever. And so sometimes you have 204Bs, sometimes you have whatever, right? So it doesn't really add up. And so what we wanted to do was say, based on the number of hours that the letter carriers are working in that installation, divided by 40 or whatever formula you come up with, that number of hours that are being worked would determine the number of full-time letter carriers that you would have. And so you would have assignments, and then you would have just unassigned regulars that were guaranteed a full-time schedule. And that would make more sense. And then how can we force the Postal Service to have that number of employees that they need? The right number of full-time positions plus the auxiliary workforce that goes with it, which is normally like 20% or whatever that number is. So now if I have 50 full-time positions, you know, now I have to have 70 carriers total. And then what would be, so if the requirement is 70, what would be the penalty if you can't get there? Like if you don't have 70 people on staff, what is the penalty? You got to be a higher rate of pay, right?
Yeah. So in any other job in the world, if you can't hire people at $20 an hour,
Yep.
you offer $22
Exactly.
an hour.
Exactly.
And if you can't hire people at 22,
Exactly.
you offer 24.
Exactly.
And
So you'd have a base rate of pay.
they'd have
and
to
a
increase our
requirement-
pay.
Well,
to
just
meet
in
their
that
hiring
installation,
requirement.
right?
Yeah.
That you are required to have this level of staffing. And if you don't have this level of staffing, so our base rate, and we all think it should be like $30 an hour, but whatever the base is, you know, you'd have to go up from there in order to effectuate hiring. The other thing that I'd like to see them do is to have at least one letter carrier in every district that is involved in the hiring process. Because I think that would help. They do a really horrible job, even where they have like career jobs, like PTF jobs, they really do a bad job of advertising the job. They do a bad job of like interviewing, of you know, like matching the job with the people. And I think if we had just at least one letter carrier in every district that was involved in that process, I think we could do a little bit better job of advertising the job and getting qualified people in through the door.
When I was hired in 2019, I got an email. I was never interviewed, never did anything. I responded to a few emails and walked in the door.
Yep.
That was it.
Nah, the process is whack. And there's a lot of people that want to bring back the 473 battery test. We should have a physical. You should have some type of interview so that the person coming in knows the physicality of the job and the hours and then this and that. But you know what I found with human resources, one of the problems we have, first of all, you have different contracts. The human resource department is working with these different crafts. But because the rules are so damn complicated, nobody can explain them. Like, it requires me, the national business agent, to come in and be able to explain all the different rules and regulations. I mean, you have new carriers. Oh, you're a CCA, you're a PTF. The CCAs can bid on routes after 60 days. The PTFs have to wait 90 days. There's all these different rules and regulations, and nobody knows what the hell they are. And so, to me, it really hurts the hiring process and the retention process because people want to know what they're walking into. They want to know, hey, what's my schedule going to be? No fucking idea. You know, like, I couldn't tell you, you know. That doesn't work for a lot of people. That's not a successful business model. But
Well, yeah, having a set schedule would help a lot
Yeah.
on a lot of them. I'm just not being able to balance that work-home life balance.
I
This
understand.
is your schedule.
Exactly. Why can't it just be set like that? Here's another thing that I think we should explore. And this comes into play a lot of times with the holiday schedule I've seen. Why can't we say that the Postal Service is required to schedule one person on every route? Like, if the route is out of adjustment, fix that part, you know? But it would be simpler. Like I've seen with the holiday schedule sometimes where they'll force a lot of people to come in and they'll say, well, we didn't know if we were going to have call-offs or whatever. And I'm like, the whole point of the holiday is so that full-time regulars that want to be off can enjoy their holiday. But you're overscheduling. Other times we see them underschedule. And they say, oh, we're gonna pivot 5 routes, so we're just gonna want to underschedule. Like, how simple would it be just to say, you know, you're gonna schedule one person for every route and be done with it, you know? And if the routes are not, you know, in adjustment, then fix that part. You know, I don't know. Some of the things it would seem that you could just simplify stuff, but I gotta tell you guys, we got to hit the Postal Service over the head contractually before we're going to make any progress on the joint agreement. I mean, they are the party of no. I know I said I wanted to talk about this, but the 90-day negotiating period mandated by law is now over, and we accomplished nothing. Like, I don't think the president of the union can point to one significant thing that there is agreement on in the 90-day period. Not even one thing. And we're going to listen to him again tonight, May 31st. He's got another kind of a town hall. Well, it's not a town hall because you can't ask him no questions, but it's just him speaking, I guess. I mean, anyway, we're going to hear him again tonight. But last time we didn't hear, and I mean, I was out there last week when we were out in D.C. There's not even one thing of substance that we can point to say we accomplished. How do you guys feel about the process of contract negotiations?
It's failed.
You think it used to work better before or something? Because they'll say this is how we've always done it, and I'm like, well, I don't know if this is how we've always done it because I'm not that old, you know. But if this is how we've always done it, let's stop.
Yeah,
Let's stop doing it this way because this way does not work.
Because it's not working.
I hate back pay. I hate negotiating a contract a year after. You know, you can't. Like, let's say we were able to get rid of the CCA classification. That doesn't give. Let's say it comes in a year or two or whatever, but that doesn't give those people their time back. You know, they were forced to work Sunday, whatever. Like, people quit the job. Like, you have to negotiate in real time. And the law says this is the 90-day period to negotiate. So why are we not accomplishing anything during the 90-day period? I can't remember the last time we've come out of a 90-day period of contract negotiations and said, here's what we accomplished. And this time it would seem that we know the president, he's confident in his ability to negotiate a contract on our behalf. He's more confident in his ability than we're confident in his ability. But that's fine if you got through the 90-day period at least, and you said to us as a membership, here's the contract that I think is the best we're going to get. And then you guys, the membership, can vote on it right now, right? And there's this 60-day period where you can't go to arbitration anyway because it's mandated by law. You have this cooling off period or mediation period. Okay, let's use the 60 days to vote on whatever tentative agreement you think as the president is suitable that you have negotiated in this 90-day period, and let us vote on it. Because if we can't vote on it now, it just means that you've wasted the 90-day period.
Yeah. I mean, throughout the whole 90-day period, I mean, and even last negotiations, going to our members constantly saying, we don't know nothing. I mean, even his updates lately have been just fluff. He hasn't really said much.
Nothing real specific.
Nothing.
And nothing really about the economics. No. So how do you guys feel about because I don't know what information you guys have, and maybe I have more, but probably not. But let's say, I just wonder, what information have you guys gotten about the economic aspects of the contract?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. So here's the
because
thing.
There's one thing that we did get. I was just wondering if it registered with you guys.
Yeah,
we got the survey, the poll.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get the latest survey, the one that went out a couple weeks ago.
You didn't get it? Did you get it? No, nobody got it?
So here's the thing that blows my mind.
That might be why.
The way your 90-day negotiating period works. It seems like the way that I watched his whole thing last week.
Yeah, me too.
It seemed like what he said was, well, we come together every so often, and then we give out a few proposals, and they give out a few proposals, and we go back the next week, and we think about them, and we come back, and we do this, and we do that. I'm like, why didn't you take whatever it was, 200, 300 proposals, and dump them all on them on February 1st? And say, you think about this stuff. Give me everything you've got, and we'll do the same. And then on February 23rd or 22nd or whatever the hell it was, come to this and say, okay, you gave us 150 proposals. These 30, we're not going to touch. They're rejected. These 10, we can deal with. These are the ones we want to negotiate on. And from the way Renfro
is this the post office talking, or is this us talking?
Both sides.
Both sides, okay.
You know, everyone gets all the proposals.
They generally don't have a lot of proposals, but okay.
Yeah, everyone gives all the proposals right up front, and then you say, these are the non-starters, these are the ones we can agree with, and this is what we're actually going to negotiate on. And after 90 days, you say, okay, this is what we've negotiated on, and you know, these 5 issues are non-starters, and they're meaning because we didn't agree on these, we're going to arbitration.
So there was one economic proposal that was presented to the membership in the way of through the survey, which is not a survey. It's really a poll, even though the text message that came in said this is a survey from your union. The distinction is that a survey is something that we can all go to the website and take the survey. A poll is supposed to be a scientific sampling of the membership. So the polling company is looking at the demographics of the people that are taking the poll to try to get a true sampling of the membership. You know, percent of carriers that are CCAs, percent of carriers that are at the top step, you know, things like that in the poll. And one thing they presented in the poll was the idea of going to a 10-hour workday for 4 days as a full-time assignment instead of 8 hours a day for 5 days. And so you immediately had a reaction to that. And what is it?
Well, I'm one of the few people that, as a clerk has that already in their contract that they can
nifty.
They can put that in there.
Right.
I was one.
What schedule did you have?
I had a 4 10-hour days.
4-10, okay.
90% of the time I worked 5 days.
Right. That's what I would be worried about.
Yeah. I mean, it does not work. It is terrible. It sucks.
And it'd be a lot harder as a carrier, right?
Oh yeah, you're working 10 hours days. Man. You don't get overtime until you get that 10.
I only deliver my route 1 week out of the year, but them days are hard.
Yeah. Most time you're working 12 hours, not
now
10.
You want to, yeah.
You know, your overtime doesn't hit until 10 hours. You know?
Yeah, and there was a lot of what pissed me off about it was
it looks good on paper. It's not good in fact.
And for some people. Get Chris the pen. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, and one more thing too about that is that for any other job that may be fine, but with our job specifically, you know, our hours are based on our routes. We make it a 10-hour route. That route just magically got way bigger, and we lose the amount of routes. We have more people losing their routes. And I think that's what we need to keep in mind is that the real end goal for all of us carriers should be we all have routes that are 8 hours for us that reflect our abilities, that allow us to take the best care of our customers right off the bat, because like, I have a route right now that's way out of adjustment. I'm working like 10-hour days. I can't give the best of my abilities to my customers at all. And if it was up to them, I'd be working 12. You know what I mean? So I think the idea is that we want to show up every day, just a little, but for a little bit less. And that's why this like whole poll thing is so weird, because it's like they're asking about it. It's like, but we have no meaningful way to say no. That's awful. Get that out of here.
Well, in theory, it comes through the polling, but to me, I can't give you an educated opinion on something until I know what the details are. So, like, for example, after 10 hours, is that penalty overtime like it is now, or is that just regular overtime? That would matter. The NS day, are we going to still have this mandating bullshit, or are they going to fix those mandating rules like we talked about earlier, like a half hour ago? That's another question. I think there's a lot of questions that would it come with an evaluation of the routes? I assume it would have to, because, like you said, you're making the routes longer, so how does that work? But what would that evaluation look like? Would it look like the T-REAP? Or would it look like Chapter 2 of the M39? Or what would it look like? And what pissed me off is that instead of talking about it from day one in the 90-day negotiating period, and then maybe 30 days in, send out a poll or a survey to the membership and say, here's what we're looking at. What do you guys think, right? Or bring it up at a convention so we can vote on it, or, some type of way to actually gauge the membership in real time. Instead of doing that, at the end of the 90-day period, all we have is speculation on what it will look like, and then we're all required to say, oh, I like that or I don't like that. Well, I don't even know what I'm opinioning about. I haven't been told any of the details. You haven't flushed any of this out with the employer to see what it would look like. That's the problem I got with it.
Yeah. So I've thought about this quite a lot since I heard about it. And here's the top 3 things that I think people need to think about this particular issue. To do this, you have a 3-week schedule instead of a 6-week schedule. So you'd have week 1, you're off Monday and Tuesday. Week 2, you're off Wednesday and Thursday. Week 3, you're off Friday and Saturday.
So you want to have...
That's the only way it works.
Well, it's the only way it works if you're going to have consecutive off days.
Right. Well, because
you don't have to have consecutive off days outside of
that
Sunday.
middle week being Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is the only way it works. Because the first one I heard was Monday through Thursday, Tuesday through Friday, Wednesday through Saturday. So you'd have 3 days off in a row all the time. The problem with that is all 3 of those schedules are working Wednesday and Thursday.
Right now, that schedule wouldn't work.
So that's the first thing.
But you could rotate it.
What that does, though, is it gives me a 5 days off in a row every 3 weeks, which is interesting, but I think would cause every manager to completely lose their mind. And so because I'd have 5 days off in a row. How dare I? That's number 1. Number 2.
But that's a selling point.
Right. So
if that's what the schedule would be, I want to know that, because that leans me towards saying yes.
Okay. Point number 2. Winter.
I would consider it. I would.
Point number 2, winter. At an 8-hour schedule in the wintertime, that easily becomes 9.5 to 10. What does a 10-hour schedule become? 13? 14?
And also, what does that say about darkness? Because there's only a certain, in the wintertime, how many hours of light do you have to deal with?
Here, try 9.
Right. And if you only have 9 hours, how do you build a 10-hour route when you know for sure there's only going to be 9 hours of light?
Of daylight. And probably I'm in the office. And
well, Alaska already has that problem.
One of those hours. Yeah.
Whether it's 8 hours or 10, they have that problem. But for most of the country, when you go from 8 to 10, that would be a big difference.
So that's the second big problem or issue to deal with. The third one is ODL. As it currently stands, on an 8-hour, 5-day-a-week schedule, ODL can work 20 hours of overtime and never go off their assignment, never work an SDO. Under this, 8 hours.
Until they work a 10-hour shift.
Well, they'd have to work on an SDO to go beyond 8 hours of overtime.
Right.
And that's a huge deal. You have 10 people on the SDO, right? on the ODL right now, that's 200 available hours of overtime every week. Now that suddenly becomes 80 hours. That's
It's just
a big deal.
It's such a big shift, you know.
So there's
To
and
just
that's
like
just
throw it on
the
us in some
highlights.
type of poll. I mean,
I've got several other issues I could talk to you about, but those are big deals.
Well, and let alone you're sending carriers out there to be out there in the weather, in the elements longer, and doing a job that is very hard on our bodies for a longer period of time.
Yep.
You're going to end up with more sick leave.
And if you don't solve them staffing issues, you're picking up pieces on other routes, and it's like the day just gets crazy.
Yeah, workman's comp's going to go up. You know,
Accidents
are going to go up. All these things are going to go up. That's what they're not considering.
Yeah.
You know, as far as you can talk about the poll and stuff like that, this was something that was never introduced in the poll that was actually put out by the NALC at the beginning of the contract.
Right.
It was never brought up by any committee that I know of.
Right. It wasn't at it didn't come up at the convention or
no convention resolution brought it up. All of a sudden, this just sprang out of nowhere.
That's what I don't like about it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this question. Maybe this will be the last one, unless you guys got other stuff. What would you like to see, bare minimum, out of a contract in order for you to vote for it? Like, what would be the things you have to see in a contract for you to say yes?
Okay, so I guess the first one would be, a wage that enough that like I can have a home. You know what I mean?
What do you think that wage is?
I don't know. 30 base would be great. Going up to 50 like the UPS guys would be more than fair, I think, especially since we do have a generous, TSP program. So like 30 to 50 feels just about right for where we're at. It puts us above most other, jobs that start off at like 15 to 20 right now, because our jobs are incredibly hard. That's number one thing. The second thing is some way to have them follow the dang thing, in the first
compliance.
Place. Yeah, the problem I feel like the biggest problem we have with our contracts right now is that we could get everything in the world. We could get everything we wanted, but they're just going to say we're not going to follow it, and then we're going to go, oh, we'll grieve it, and they're going to go, no, we're not going to do anything about it. Screw you. And that's where our problem is right now, is that there's no we are gridlocked right now because there's no way to get them to hold up their end of the agreement. You know what I mean? And it feels like with we can't strike, we can't do anything to basically meaningfully stop them from abusing their end of the agreement. And that's what I think we need something. I don't know what it is, but I would like something in the contract saying that, like, hey, every time if it's ruled that we send something up to step B because it was a bad faith attempt, automatically make it like a cease and assist for all future.
Or you pay double.
Pay double.
If you were told to stop doing this and you do it again, you got to pay double.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing.
Something simple like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a young guy. I'm gonna be here for 30 years. I want to know that the next 30. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, my biggest thing is I want to have a house. I want to have a home. I want to have a family that I can support. How am I supposed to do that if I know that I'm walking into work and that my boss doesn't have doesn't have like restrictions on them, because I know he doesn't care about me. That's never going to change. Our bosses are never going to care about us. So we need something to keep, put them in place and stop them from, attacking us insistently. And I think that is, if I saw that in a contract, like something to prevent this, I would vote for it immediately.
The other thing is, in the grievance process, in addition to the compliance piece, and you kind of brought this up a little bit, there's got to be a better way to do grievances in 2026 versus the process we came up with in 1998. And just with technology. And I've been saying that, you guys probably handle grievances, and that these files get real big, and there's all these contentions, and they got a line in there for undisputed facts, and nobody wants to put nothing in there. And so you meet with someone who has no intention of hearing you out and trying to resolve the issue. And then you get into the lawyer game, and everyone starts, writing up their stuff. And I'm like, why can't I, as a carrier, go to my boss, someone who can make a decision? Because sometimes this supervisor can make a decision. Sometimes you got to go to the postmaster or some type of manager. I don't care. Put me in front of somebody who can make a decision with my union steward, and we're going to try to resolve it. And if we can't resolve it, I want to be on a Zoom meeting within 24 to 48 hours with somebody who's going to apply the contract to the fact circumstances, and we're going to be done with it. And that's it. Give me someone with some teeth that understands the contractual provisions. We're going to share our stuff up on the screen. We're going to, we're going to be there. We're going to, we're just going to get it resolved. And why this grievance process that goes on forever, that has all these steps, that the Postal Service has literally withdrawn from the process. They're not actively participating in it. If we're in contract negotiations, why can't we come up with a process that actually works and fix the compliance piece as well?
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely on that. And yeah, we definitely need a better grievance process.
I think so.
It's broken right now. Waiting a year and a half for step B, not working. And the post office is abusing the shit out of that. The post office loves to say that, oh, you guys are weaponizing cease and desist. The post office is the one that's weaponizing shit.
Yeah.
They're weaponizing step B, they're weaponizing Article 16.7, they're weaponizing a lot of things without our contract. And National's doing nothing about it.
Yeah, I don't see how you can say somebody's weaponizing something for participating in a joint Article 15 process that's in the damn contract.
Yeah.
Like, how am I weaponizing it? But like you said, the 16.7 provisions, they know damn well that they're going outside of what is allowed to put someone off the clock, but they're doing it on purpose in order to harm you. No carrier files a grievance in order to harm the Postal Service.
No.
That's crap. We're trying to fix an issue, a problem, a dispute.
As far as what I'd like to see out of the contract, definitely 30-hour starting wage. I'm a big believer in reducing the management. 1 in 30, 1 in 30. We're in 1 in 7 right now. About that. It was what I
think the way we would do that would be to give carriers more responsibility. And so there's you have like the lead clerk. And so can you have like a lead carrier that would be responsible for, say, like the scheduling and stuff like that? Carriers know their own workload. They can estimate their own workload. Take the supervisor out of the equation. I think there's ways to do that.
I've heard some of that. I'd like to see details on it before I'd agree to something like that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Definitely compliance. Non-career workforce is a non-starter for me.
Yeah.
We got to get rid of the CCAs. I never voted for it when it came in. I didn't want them. I wanted PTFs.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got anything else to add? I'm taking notes here.
Nah, I think pretty much all that is solid. The $30 starting wage is great. I'm step E right now. I make $28.49. When I get to step
How many
F,
years you been in?
6.5.
It's crazy.
When I get to step F next month, that'll go up to $29.58.
Still won't be there.
And I still won't be at a $30 an hour wage.
Right.
So that's really important to me, because to me, a $30 an hour starting wage means I'm hopefully making 36. Right. That's a huge deal.
No, they're just going to move you up to 30.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, there's that. But, yeah, the non-compliance is that's what makes our whole contract laughable. I don't know why we even bother negotiating with them. They're not negotiating in good faith. They never have. Not as far as I'm aware. I'm actually seriously considering saying, trying to put together a resolution or something saying, why are we even showing up for the 90-day negotiation? You're not negotiating in good faith. Until they can get our grievances down to less than 100,000 a year, they're not taking the contract seriously.
Yeah, no, I know.
And until they do, what's the point?
And as far as the non-compliance goes, that was something Brian said at Boston. Was he came into the convention screaming and yelling about the non-compliance, about how he's sick of it, tired of it. But what has he really done since then?
Nothing.
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 He has not done a dang thing.
He hasn't even filed the national grievance that we said you have to file as the delegates to the convention of 2024 when there's a backlog at DRT. And the backlog at DRT is probably 5 times worse. Yeah. It's way worse than what it was then. The uniform prices are worse. The backlog of grievances are worse. Like, none of our issues have gotten better since 2023 when we first started negotiating that contract. And at that time, we were already at a point where it was like, we got to do something about these things. And all of those things have gotten worse. Our wages have gotten worse versus the rate of inflation. Right now is the worst time to be negotiating a contract because if we were under a contract. So one of the things that happened when we had the tentative agreement, and we didn't like the terms, but the terms were going to go all the way up until November of this year. And so we would have had that additional cost of living allowance built into the contract, which is going to be very significant this summer. Well, now we don't have that. It's not in our contract. Who says what we're going to end up getting now that our contract expired in May, and we didn't get no type of answer on why the contract expires in May now versus it was expiring in November. Then, what was the reasoning behind that? We never heard, but I think that puts us in a worse negotiating position because now we're chasing, now the same money is less money because of the rate of inflation right now.
The general rumor is the reason it ended in May is so that Renfro could negotiate the next contract.
Right.
That's it.
Which
obviously it should have gone to November, but if it goes to November, Renfro doesn't get to negotiate it and try to save his job with whatever is coming.
I think that, now they never gave us a survey on this, but if we had a polling on what grade would you give President Renfro on how he handled the last round of negotiations, I'm pretty sure he's going to get between a D- and an F, right? Like, F. I think almost so why would you think that this means that you're supposed to, like, we want you to do this again? No, man, we don't. But anyway.
I mean, we got to remember, it was a historical contract.
Sure.
Historically, the worst one we've seen.
Right. It was historically bad, and the process was bad, and it's just frustrating that this process doesn't look like it's any better. We had some hopes because we had all of these committees and we were working on different things, and the process, like, all of that was great. We have all these proposals, but actually getting this stuff into the contract, we haven't seen any progress whatsoever on that. It's a shame. So, all right, we'll go around. Final comments? You want to go first?
I think we've pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover. Just the pay.
Any questions? Any questions for me as a candidate? We have Ask Mike Anything type forums or whatever.
We've covered pretty much all the things I wanted to talk about. Okay. So, the main things for me is the pay. I can put up with a hell of a lot more if you're paying me $35 an hour as opposed to $28 an hour. Makes a huge difference.
I just really want to let people know I appreciate you coming here, Mike. I mean, Montana is a small group. We're not a big group. Most national people just overlook us. We're the redheaded stepchilds of almost everybody. So I really do appreciate you coming.
Now, you're welcome, man. I think it's important. I think every place has unique issues. Every place I go to, I learn something else. So I appreciate you guys taking your time, coming out and having conversation and bringing things to the forefront that may be more of an issue here than other places so that I can get a well-rounded perspective on what's going on out there.
I just want to say, thank you again for coming out here. I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere, basically, in the grand scheme of things. So
you're in the middle of the most beautiful place on earth.
We're in the Union Club, man.
Yeah, I heard it's pretty out here, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess I really hope to see if you do win. I really hope to see some progress on taking care of our grievance process. I think that's really where we're getting stuck right now. And thank you again for your time.
Are you welcome, brother?
You want me to say something?
I don't know. You got anything? You can pass it.
Thank you for being here, and I'm glad to be a part of this. Like, I understand how important this is. I mean, I still, even as a non-carrier, still live and die by the union. I think it's important.
It's awesome.
But the most important thing is we need a leader who is transparent, and that means saying, "Hey, I fucked up." Like, he had an opportunity in Boston to say, "I made a mistake. I'm not a perfect person." I would have gotten behind that. I would have totally gotten behind that. And I think that's important for a leader to do. If you get in there, you're going to fuck up. Guaranteed. You're going to make decisions that aren't popular. You're going to make mistakes. What we need collectively is a leader who acknowledges that they're not perfect, but they're doing the best for their brothers and sisters. That's what we need.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I would add on one more thing, which is that you got to have the person in charge. And you guys know this within the branch or whatever. You got to have people that work collaboratively, because if you don't, and there's not accountability within the union, there's really no way to move forward as a group. And at the end of the day, we're a fraternal organization. Like you say, nobody expects their leadership to be perfect, but they do expect their leadership to be accountable to the membership, and they do expect their leadership to put their best foot forward. And when you don't have a collaborative leadership structure, there's no way you can put your best foot forward, because we're all limited as individuals. My best ideas are not our best ideas. It just doesn't work that way. And so you have to have that open line of communication with the membership and within the leadership circles. And you have to have the ability for the union to discuss things, come to decisions on what we're going to do, not just the one person, but the union come to decisions. And then the president's job is to enact those decisions that the union has decided to do. And that's where we're going to need a change in order to make that happen.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'll just end on this for you guys and those out there watching this. It's going to be very, very important. So start thinking about who are the members of the union that can vote, and making sure that they know the dates when the ballots are coming out. Make sure that they're aware there's an election coming. You can send them to the website, careforpres.org, because there's a ton of stuff on there. We're trying to do everything we can to get recognition on all of the different social media sites, just to kind of make sure that all the members of the union know that there's going to be an election. You can participate. You can help make change in this union. This is your union. You have that opportunity. And so hopefully everyone around the country is doing that, and we're going to get a great participation, and then we go from there. And then the real challenges start after that, because it ain't going to be easy to change all this stuff, but
Yeah, because the voting is the most important thing. Voting, no matter what, voting, letting your voice be heard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, you guys, anything else? We're good?
I just wanted to apologize for the lack of attendance.
Ah,
I was
you're good,
really
man.
hoping that people would take advantage of the situation to come in and meet you and ask their own questions.
It's
I
hard
think
sometimes.
I enjoyed
but
this situation, but I appreciate
You
you
guys
being
did good.
here and, getting to know the people that are here and trying to help out. But a little disappointed that more people didn't avail themselves of the opportunity.
So if you're listening, your president's disappointed in you, but I'm not. I'm good. I appreciate it, brother. Thanks a lot, you guys. It's been great. I don't know if they'll put this on the video or they'll turn it off, but
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
thanks a lot, you guys.
Yeah. Not doing it.